Chapter 1192. The gunshots stopped. The forest and the railroad tracks were filled with corpses. In the animal world, lions wouldn't eat lions and tigers wouldn't eat tigers, even in a drought season when their food was scarce. But humans could kill their own kind, and it had nothing to do with food. That was why humans were the most brutal species on this planet. Giovanna counted the number of veterans from the Rescue Society. She had brought 100 people, but after the battle ended, there were only 32 people left. Everyone from the Zodiac Squad was injured, but there were no casualties. In fact, this was already an amazing achievement. The members of the Zodiac Squad met up with Giovanna and the others. Shinatianin was also brought over by Rosa and Teresa. But the only important person they didn't see was Charlotte. "Where's Boss?" Engimi Khan said. "He must have done it just now, but why didn't he show up? What happened just now?" Yelena was still in shock and confusion. No one answered the couple's question. Engimi Khan and Yelena asked what the others wanted to know. "I can't get through to him." Jun put down the satellite phone, his face full of disappointment. "Why didn't he come out to see us?" Rosa asked anxiously. Shinatianin suddenly ran in the direction of the Friendship Mining Company's factory. As he ran, he shouted, "Charlotte! Charlotte, where are you? Stop her!" Giovanna suddenly shouted. Before the others could catch up to Shinatianin, a black figure jumped out from the forest beside the railroad and hugged Shinatianin's waist. Many people thought that it was Charlotte who showed up, but it wasn't. The one who stopped Shinatianin was Akiko Tsukino. While the others were discussing what had just happened and where Charlotte was, she kept looking for traces of Charlotte in the battlefield. "Let me go! Let me go!" Shinatianin struggled. "If you weren't the boss's woman, and he asked me to protect you, I wouldn't care about you. What do you want to do? Seeking death? If you die, how are we going to answer to boss?" "Bastard," Akiko Tsukino said. The word bastard calmed Shinatianin down. She bit her lip and said nothing. In such an environment, in the eyes of these cold-blooded super soldiers, even the Queen of England would not be able to put on the airs of a queen, let alone her. Moreover, it was completely useless. Akiko Tsukino carried Shinatianin back and put her down. "Akiko, have you found any traces of Boss?" Sayamo asked. Akiko Tsukino took out an incomplete map and held it up. On the back of the map was written in Chinese, "Leave Nigeria, go to Chad. I'll come find you later. If I'm still not back by tomorrow evening, don't wait for me. Take the plane back home. Also, take good care of my woman." Seeing the words, "take good care of my woman," Shinatianin could no longer control her emotions, and tears streamed down her face. Akiko Tsukino crumpled the map into a ball, lit it with a lighter, and threw it on the ground. The map turned to ashes in the fire and was blown away by the wind. "What is Boss playing at?" Engimi Khan was confused. Akiko Tsukino smiled bitterly. "How would I know? Let's do what he told us to do. We have to leave here. If the American reinforcements come, it'll be bad." The group began to retreat. Shinatianin looked back every 2 steps. She imagined that the man she loved would suddenly appear in front of her, but he never did. The 4 female knights muttered. "I'm sure it was a miracle," Giovanna said in Italian. "We can't call him master anymore. Then what should we call him?" Stella looked confused. "Holy Thunder." Giovanna drew a cross in front of her chest. "He is the god of war that God sent to this world. To be able to follow him is the greatest honor of our lives. I am willing to give up my everything for him." "Sis, what is your everything?" Stella asked with a smile. "Blood, soul, and flesh. Everything I have." Giovanna's eyes shone with a devout light. Rosa smiled. "You want to sleep with Holy Thunder, right? I bet you must be very wet." Giovanna. The wounded group went further and further away. A few hundred meters away, on a tree that was several dozen meters tall, Charlotte quietly watched his people leave. His gaze stopped on Shinatianin's body for a long time before moving away in the end. He said to himself, "Forgive me. It's not that I'm unwilling to meet all of you, and I want to leave with all of you. However, there are some things that I must do." There were always some things in life that we were extremely unwilling to do, but we still had to do them. We thought that we had no other choice. Charlotte had no other choice. Zhu Xinhua didn't kill him because she knew that he had taken the last AE capsule. Why was that? He had to find out. He also had to find out Kirsten's identity. Therefore, even though he knew that it was very dangerous to return to the Friendship Mining Company at this time, he had to go back. Kirsten was so badly injured that he had to receive treatment. To receive treatment, he had to leave Mine 13. This was his only chance to capture or kill Kirsten. If Kirsten returned to the United States, he would not have another chance. Moreover, he had to find out if Kirsten would bring the rare metal bricks from the underground pyramid back to the United States to build the Dragon Slayer superfighter jet. The Friendship Mining Company was silent at night. The cold moonlight and the cold corpses made it look like a morgue in an apocalyptic world. Charlotte appeared in the Friendship Mining Company. He walked toward the back door. His destination was still Mine 13. While walking, his eyes quickly swept across the entire factory area, scanning and scouting the area with his X-ray vision. The hostages in the material warehouse had all escaped. The cars in the parking lot had also been driven away, including some American military vehicles. As his eyes scanned the office building, Charlotte suddenly stopped and turned around to walk toward the office building. In an office on the first floor of the office building, a middle-aged man was talking on the phone. Charlotte recognized him at first glance. The man was none other than Shintu Tianing's seventh uncle, Shintu Weiying. What the hell? You promised to protect me. If I hadn't left Mine 13 at the last minute, I would be dead now. I don't care. The workers have all escaped. I can't cover this up anymore. If you don't send a plane to pick me up, I'll expose our deal. Shintu Weiying was very nervous and scared. What's the situation in Mine 13 now? A man's voice came from the phone. 10 meters away, Xiaolei's ears caught the sound from the phone, and he immediately stopped. It was Yin Fo's voice. He didn't expect that the person who made the deal with Shintu Weiying would be Yin Fo. The FA organization was now working for the United States, and Yin Fo was also under the command of Williams. So, it was the CIA who made the deal with Shintu Weiying. I don't know. I don't dare to go in, but I know the situation outside. People are dead. Shintu Weiying's voice was trembling. Go into Mine number 13 and have a look. We're already here. You'll get what you want. Don't worry about that. As long as you go into Mine number 13 and have a look, you'll be able to tell me what's going on inside, Yin Fo said. Okay, I'll go and have a look now. Call me after you've seen it. Wait for my call. Shintu Weiying put down the phone and turned to go out. As soon as he walked out of the door, he stopped. He saw Charlotte standing a few meters away. Charlotte walked towards Shintu Weiying. Hey, you came at the right time. Go to Mine 13 and have a look, and then tell me the situation inside, Shintu Weiying said. He regarded Charlotte as a survivor of the U.S. Special Forces. Charlotte didn't speak. He continued to walk towards Shintu Weiying. Shintu Weiying frowned. Don't you understand English? Then how did you get this job? Well, as long as you do as I say, I will give you $500. 1,000? Charlotte walked up to Shintu Weiying and suddenly reached out and grabbed Shintu Weiying's neck. You. Shintu Weiying's face suddenly turned pale. Do you people of the Shintu family have the gene for betrayal? Charlotte said in Chinese. You are. Shintu Weiying's voice was trembling. Who are you? Charlotte said lightly. The person who wants your life. Let go of me. Shintu Weiying punched Charlotte's cheek. Charlotte suddenly tightened his grip on Shintu Weiying's neck. Shintu Weiying's breathing suddenly stopped. He didn't care about Charlotte's face anymore. He hurriedly reached out to pry off Charlotte's hand. But to him, the hand that was strangling his neck wasn't a hand, but a big pincer. Shintu Weiying's legs kept kicking Charlotte, but his struggle was getting weaker and weaker. His crotch was wet with urine, and it dripped down his trousers to the ground. Charlotte frowned and let go of his hand. Shintu Weiying fell to the ground and didn't move again. Charlotte dragged his body into the office and stuffed it under the desk. He sat in the office chair and imitated Shintu Weiying's voice, repeating what Shintu Weiying had just said. Don't you understand English? Then how'd you get this job? Well, as long as you do as I say, I will give you $500. 1,000? 10 minutes later, he picked up the phone on the desk and dialed back the number that Shintu Weiying had called before. He said, No, not good. Why are you panicking? Calm down. Yin Fo's voice was full of anger. Charlotte was still very nervous. I have to get out of here. They're coming. They're coming. At least 2,000 people. What did you say? 2,000 people? How is that possible? They're coming. No, I have to leave, Charlotte said anxiously. By the way, they also have anti-aircraft missile vehicles. It seems it's the Russians. Ah, it was Yin Fo's voice. Charlotte put down the phone and hung up. Of course, there were no Russian soldiers or anti-aircraft missiles here. His purpose of pretending to be Wei was very clear. That was his target tonight was Kirsten, not anyone from the FA organization. He would definitely destroy the FA organization, but not now. He made this call and let Russia take the blame for the time being. The CIA would definitely launch an investigation, and by the time they finished the investigation and let Yin Fo come with reinforcements, he would probably be finished. Charlotte left the office and climbed to the roof of the office building. His eyes moved to the direction of mine number 13. Then he took off the equipment bag and assembled an XL 2500 sniper rifle in the equipment bag. Then he waited. 5 minutes later, a figure came into his sight. Chapter 1193. Kirsten finally appeared. He walked very slowly and staggered. There were more than 10 wounds on his body, and his right chest had been pierced. It was a miracle that he could walk out on his own. Charlotte locked his gaze on Kirsten. In his eyes, any part of Kirsten's body was a target that he could attack. As long as he pulled the trigger, Kirsten would fall. Should he kill him or rush over to capture him? Between these two options, Charlotte hesitated for a moment. In the end, he chose the latter. If he captured Kirsten, he might not be able to get the information he wanted from Kirsten. On the other hand, if Kirsten was alive, he would be a huge threat, not only to his wife and children, but also to the whole of China. After all, Kirsten still had the Dragon Slayer project. After making his choice, Charlotte locked his gaze on Kirsten's chest. The XL 2500 sniper rifle in his hand followed his line of sight and finally locked onto Kirsten's heart. However, just as Charlotte was about to shoot, Kirsten suddenly retreated into mine 13. Xiao Lei furrowed his brows. Did that guy discover me? I'm more than 2,000 meters away from him, and I'm lying on the rooftop. If he can discover me, it means that he really has taken the AE capsule and has the same super evolution as me. Kirsten had taken the AE capsule, and this was proven in the underground pyramid. Kirsten was second only to him in terms of reflexes and strength. Moreover, his energy field could not dig out any information from Kirsten's brain. Also, Kirsten's ability to research the Dragon Slayer superfighter jet was proof. If that was the case, there was even more reason to not let Kirsten live. Charlotte got up from the rooftop and prepared to go down to mine 13 to kill Kirsten. At this moment, he suddenly heard a soft voice behind him. He suddenly turned around, and a breathtakingly beautiful face entered his field of vision. It was Zhu Xianhua. Charlotte had no idea when she had arrived. Two pairs of eyes met. One was clothed, and the other was naked. One's gaze was cold, and the other seemed very nervous. A few seconds later, Zhu Xianhua broke the silence between the two. When you left, I knew what you wanted to do. Do you really want to kill my follower? Charlotte said, I just want to figure out what happened. Give me the answer, and I'll leave now. Zhu Xianhua's eyes grew colder. Do you really think I won't dare to kill you? Charlotte said, Yes, you made it very clear that you don't owe me anything. If you want to kill me, you can do it. I don't dare. Killing me won't do you any good. You let me go not because you are benevolent, but because I still have some value to you, right? That was why he gave me 3 years and forced me to eat the last AE capsule. Were the two of you plotting? Zhu Xianhua frowned. She did not answer Charlotte's question. What do you want from me? Charlotte asked. Zhu Xianhua shook her head. One day, you'll understand everything, but not now. Then tell me, who is Kirsten? He also took the AE capsule, right? Charlotte changed the question. Zhu Xianhua said, Leave. I won't answer any of your questions. Charlotte did not move. He was not willing to give up. Zhu Xianhua said, You'd better leave now. Kirsten has already contacted the CIA, and they're sending people over. You have about 20 minutes to leave. After that, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to leave here alive. There was a hint of a threat in her words. Xiaolei, however, was unmoved. He smiled in an abnormal manner. Be it you or the prehistoric only, it would be easy for either of you to kill me. Yet, you chose to let me live. Even if I were to become your enemy, you would still let me live. I'm more and more certain what you want from me. Then what do you think it is? I don't know yet, but I'll definitely get to the bottom of it. It's fine if you don't tell me, but I'll cooperate with the prehistoric one and give him what you want, Charlotte said. In the distance, Kirsten walked out of mine 13 again. He did not walk over. Instead, he chose an empty space to lie down. He was waiting for the CIA to rescue him. Charlotte had already given up on the idea of killing Kirsten. With Zhu Xinhua by his side, he cannot do it. He put away the XL 2500 sniper rifle and walked toward the stairs. Are you really going to choose him? Zhu Xuanyue's voice was heard. Charlotte looked back at Zhu Xinhua. You were the one who pushed me to him. I almost died in the underground pyramid. Kirsten said that you wanted to kill me, and he designed a trap to kill me. You and your followers did this to me, and I'm indebted to you. Can I still cooperate with you? He continued to walk toward the stairs. He is. Zhu Xinhua hesitated for a moment before saying, Leonardo di Piero da Vinci. Xiaolei was instantly stunned on the spot, and his feet also stopped. Kirsten was actually da Vinci, the most intelligent man in the history of mankind. History might say that Charlotte was the smartest person in the world, but before Charlotte appeared, the person with the highest IQ was da Vinci. It was no wonder that he could develop the super fighter jet dragon slayer for the United States. But how could a man from the Renaissance era live until now? In history, da Vinci was already white-haired when he died, but Kirsten was a handsome young man with blonde hair. Judging from his appearance, he was definitely no more than 30 years old. Da Vinci was born on April 23, 1452, and died on May 2, 1519, at the age of 67. This was all recorded in history, and no one had ever questioned it. If this was fake, then based on 1452, Da Vinci would be more than 560 years old now. How could a person live for so long? Moreover, what Charlotte did not understand the most was that since Da Vinci was Zhu Xuanyue's follower, why did he not resurrect her himself? In fact, if it were not for his help, even if Zhu Xuanyue could be resurrected, it would not be in this era. Maybe it would be 100 years later, or maybe a few hundred years later. Just as Charlotte was feeling surprised and suspicious, Zhu Xuanyue said calmly, I know what you are thinking. I can tell you the truth, but you have to promise me that you will not cooperate with Prehistoric One. Charlotte nodded and turned to look at Zhu Xuanyue. A smile appeared on his lips. Of course, I am more willing to cooperate with you. After all, you have two women that I love deeply in your body. He was cooperating with Prehistoric One, and now he was cooperating with Zhu Xuanyue. But no matter what kind of cooperation it was, he was not willing to do it. This was just a strategy. He, Zhu Xuanyue, and Prehistoric One were like Wei, Shu, and Wu in the Three Kingdoms period. He was the weakest Shu kingdom, and if he wanted to obtain strategic space to survive and develop, he could not be enemies with Prehistoric One and Zhu Xuanyue at the same time. He would cooperate with whoever gave him benefits. After all, these were just verbal promises, and he did not need to spend a single cent. Charlotte's smile and the women that he loved deeply seemed to have touched the other two women in Zhu Xuanyue's body. At that moment, her eyes became gentle, but in just a second, she recovered, and her eyes were still cold. I am warning you, don't try to wake them up again. Xiaolei shrugged his shoulders. I didn't do anything. That's your own fault. Tell me, what is the truth? Do you think he took the AE capsule? You are wrong. The only AE capsule in this world is in that piece of amber, but now they are in your body. If it is not the AE capsule, then Da Vinci, that is a biochemical technology from our world. He is not the Da Vinci who lived from the Renaissance until now. I used his genetic data and the biological tissue he preserved to replicate a biohuman. I used the energy of my prey in the process of replicating him. I want to make him smarter and stronger. I need a helper like him to complete my plan. This was the truth. During the Renaissance, Da Vinci met Zhu Xuanyue and fell in love with the demon. He was the smartest person in the world, and Zhu Xianyue took him in for her own use. Now, Zhu Xianyue replicated him and continued with her plan. Kirsten's current appearance was Da Vinci's when he was young. He had a high IQ, and with the energy that Zhu Xianyue obtained from hunting humans, the replicated Da Vinci would be even more powerful than the Da Vinci of the Renaissance. Zhu Xianyue created her own body in India, so of course she had the ability to replicate Da Vinci. You have mentioned your plan again and again. What is your plan? Do you really want to destroy this world? Suppressing the shock in his heart, Charlotte probed. It's time for you to go, Zhu Xianyue said. One last question, Charlotte said. Tell me, why are you working for America? Working for America? Zhu Xianyue suddenly laughed. Do you think that with my identity, I will work for America and then take a salary from the American government? She pointed in Da Vinci's direction. The Leo family, founded by his descendants, is the wealthiest family in the world. His family affects America economically and politically, and they can even influence the decisions of the decision-makers. Tell me, am I working for America, or is America working for me? Charlotte's back turned cold. America, the most powerful empire in the world. If a demon controlled the most powerful empire in the world through special means, it would not be a good thing. It would be a huge disaster. I have told you the truth. You can go. Zhu Xianyue said indifferently. Remember to fulfill the agreement between you and me. If you choose him, I will destroy everything you have. Your Rema group, your wife and children, and even your motherland. Her tone was indifferent and understated, but it was the most serious threat Charlotte had ever faced. You're very good. You will get what you want, Charlotte said and turned to leave. Just as he walked out of the Friendship mining area, more than a dozen helicopters appeared in the sky. There were Apache helicopters and Chinook transport planes. From a long distance, Charlotte could also see the CIB agents and elite special forces sitting in the Chinook transport plane, as well as the people from the FA organization, Yin FO and Augustman, and the elite armed men from the FA organization. However, Charlotte was not worried about these people. If Zhu Xianyue let him go, then those UA special forces and the CIB would not chase after him. As for the people from the FA organization, they did not have the guts to challenge Zhu Xianyue at all. The trip to Nigeria was over. Walking on the tracks, Charlotte did not know why, but he felt more tired than ever. Chapter 1194. The team left the railway and marched in the direction of the highway. This decision was made by Giovanna and Qianjun after discussion. They were worried about being chased by the pursuers. Another reason was that no one wanted to experience a 200-kilometer rapid march after a bitter battle. After making this decision, Giovanna used a satellite phone to contact the members of the Rescue Association in Kano City in Nigeria and asked them to pick them up. After a period of trekking, the team came to the highway. The highway was secluded and empty. The veterans of the Rescue Association dragged their tired bodies along the highway. The members of the Zodiac team were not much better. Although the injuries on their bodies were not fatal, they were enough to affect their speed. Was the battle won? If so, it was also a Pyrrhic victory. If it weren't for Charlotte's timely action, no one here would have survived. Shinta Tianyin walked with a limp. The physical exhaustion and the blood blisters on the soles of her feet made her very painful. However, there was no one carrying her like Charlotte. She walked at the back of the team and looked back at Friendship mining from time to time. She was worried about Charlotte. She wanted to share his burden, but there was nothing she could do. This experience made her understand that sometimes money couldn't solve problems, even if she had 100 billion. What do you think the boss is going to do? Also, will he arrive in Chad on time to meet us? Ngumi broke the depressing silence in an instant. I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm sure he'll meet us in Chad, Yelena said. Sayamu sighed. I must take a good vacation when I go back. Horatio said, let's go to Italy. Italian girls are passionate. Several members of the Zodiac team chatted, using this way to relax their tense nerves and mood. On the Rescue Association side, Giovanna said to the veterans of the Rescue Association, We lost a lot of brothers, but we shouldn't be sad. They just went to heaven. We will give their parents, wives, and children a generous pension of $500,000 each. There's also a bounty for the living, $200,000 per person. The veterans of the rescue club suddenly became excited. Each of their lost brothers could get $500,000, which was enough for their parents, wives, and children to live the rest of their lives in comfort. Each survivor would receive $200,000. For a country like Nigeria, where the average income was only $2,000, they would have to work for 100 years to earn that much money. Regardless of whether it was the dead or the living, their efforts had been rewarded. This was actually Giovanna's plan. They wanted the people of the Rescue Society to know that they would fight for the Rescue Society in the future, regardless of whether they were alive or dead. They would have no worries. This way, more people would be willing to fight for the Rescue Society in the future. After calming down the emotions of the veterans, Giovanna returned to Rosa, Stella, and Teresa's side. She looked back at Shinta, who was walking at the back of the group. Seeing her limping, she felt a little sorry for her. She walked over to Shinta. Do you need help? Shinta shook her head. No need, thank you. We might still have a long way to go. Can you do it? If you can't, I can let one of the veterans carry you, Giovanna said. No, I can walk. I don't need anyone to carry me. Shinta refused. In this world, the only man who could touch her body was Charlotte. Giovanna shrugged. Up to you then. Shinta limped forward, cold, arrogant, and stubborn. But this was her charm. At this moment, Rosa suddenly said, There's a car coming. Hide! Everyone retreated from the road and hid in the forest by the side of the road. At one of the road, 7 or 8 cars drove over quickly. As they drove, the car at the front flashed its lights a few times. It's our people. Our car is here, Giovanna said loudly. Everyone returned to the road. The cars that came to pick them up also drove over. After turning around, they stopped by the side of the road. Miss Shintu, get in the car, Giovanna said. Shinta nodded. But when she walked to the side of the car, she couldn't help but look back. She had been waiting for a scene. That was Charlotte suddenly appearing in front of her with her favorite smile on his face. But the road behind her was empty. There was no one at all. Shinta sighed in disappointment. But just as she was about to turn around and get in the car, a familiar figure suddenly walked out from the forest by the side of the road. She was stunned for a moment. When she saw who it was, she suddenly cheered and ran towards that person. Charlotte was back. Shinta limped over to Charlotte and threw herself into his arms. Her tears flowed down. She was choking and couldn't say anything. Why did you run so fast when your feet hurt? Charlotte said with a smile. Shinta softness dispelled the coldness in his heart and made him temporarily forget those terrible things. Even if I don't have legs, I'll crawl over, Shinta said. After experiencing this journey of blood and fire, she had changed, and she understood what she wanted. Can I carry you over? Charlotte's voice was very gentle. Shinta bit her cherry lips. And, if it was in the past, she would never show her helpless side in front of so many people. But now, she was willing because he was Charlotte. Charlotte carried Shinta by the waist and strode towards the car. Everyone's eyes were focused on Shinta and Charlotte, but Shinta didn't care at all. Charlotte's hands were on her legs and her waist. She felt that it was the warmest and safest arm in the world. She wanted to lie in it for the rest of her life. Boss, didn't you tell us to go first and meet up with us in Chad? Yelena asked. Charlotte said, The matter has been settled. Let's go. Get in the car. Get in the car. Giovanna said loudly. Let's get out of here. Charlotte said, No need to drive so fast. No one will chase us. No one knew what had happened, but Charlotte's return made everyone feel at ease. The retreating motorcade sped on the road through the forest of no return, getting farther and farther away. In the deep blue night sky, a round moon quietly emitted a cold light. Countless stars dotted it, distant and mysterious. It was as if there was an ancient and mysterious language telling something, but unfortunately, no one could decipher it. In a car, Charlotte looked back in the direction of friendship mining, then said to Shinta Tianyin beside him, Tianyin, your seventh uncle is dead. Did the Americans do it? Shinta Tianyin asked. Charlotte said, I don't know if it was the Americans or Boca's sacred land. Your seventh uncle seems to have made a deal with those people and sold you in friendship mining, but I don't know why they killed him. Dead is dead, Shinta Tianyin said. Also, when you go back, immediately file a complaint with the Nigerian government and let the Nigerian government come forward to protect the property of the Wanxiang group. Will that work? No. Then I don't want it, Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte said, if you can get it back, then get it back. If you can't, then don't. Shinta Tianyin leaned his head on Charlotte's shoulder. I only want you. Charlotte smiled. Giovanna, who was driving, coughed. Holy thunder, are we going directly to Chad? Or are we going to the Salvation Society's stronghold to fix up? Let's go to the Salvation Society's stronghold to fix up. Charlotte said, the CIA's people are coming, a lot of them. Get someone to collect information. It'll be safer this way. Okay, Giovanna said. She glanced at Shinta Tianyin, who was leaning on Charlotte's shoulder through the rearview mirror. When she saw Shinta Tianyin's happy face, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Coincidentally, her sister, Stella, was also peeking at Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin through the rearview mirror. When she saw Shinta Tianyin nestling in Charlotte's arms, the corners of her mouth also curled up slightly. Holy thunder! Charlotte smiled bitterly. Why do you call me that? Giovanna and Stella said in unison. No reason. We'll call you Holy Thunder from now on. Charlotte. The convoy left the forest and entered Kano City. Then they arrived at the old building. Giovanna and the other three began to deal with the pension and bonus issues, while the members of the Zodiac squad treated their wounds and rested in the house. Charlotte and Shinta Tianyin were arranged to stay in a separate room. When they entered the room, an oil painting hanging on the wall caught Charlotte's attention. The content of the painting was a forest shrouded in darkness. But in the forest, there was a snow-white beam of light that shot into the dark sky. In the white light, one could vaguely see the appearance of a person with wings. On the lower right corner of the oil painting was a label in English, Forest of No Return, Home of Elves. Elves? Elves obviously didn't exist in this world, but there was a strange and mysterious pyramid in that forest. Perhaps the ancient Kano people had seen the snow-white beam of light and the appearance of elf-like creatures, so they gave the forest the name Forest of No Return. Charlotte suddenly thought of something. Tianyin, there was a time when I entered the mine. Did you see a light outside? Light? Shinta Tianyin looked a little confused. Charlotte said, yes, light. Did you see it? Shinta Tianyin thought about it seriously. Yes, it seemed to be in the direction of the mine. I saw a white light flying into the sky. I thought it was a searchlight, so I didn't pay attention. How long did it last? A second or two. It disappeared very quickly, Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte's gaze moved to the oil painting again. It wasn't very old, probably only a few decades old. The person who painted the painting didn't sign his name, but in terms of style, it was actually a very ordinary oil painting with a limited level of skill. But it was this oil painting that its content was confirmed tonight. There had always been a saying that the pyramids were built by aliens. The pyramids in Mine 13 and the mountainside on the outskirts of Jerusalem, Israel, were not built by humans at all. Now it seemed that they were really used to send signals and contact extraterrestrial facilities. So, were Zhu Xuanyue's kind coming? Was the world's disaster, or even the end of the world coming? Charlotte's heart was heavy. What happened? Shinta Tianyin asked with concern. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Nothing. He looked at her, and his voice became gentle. When you go back, do whatever you want to do. Don't just think about your career. Shinta Tianyin smiled. You said that I can do whatever I want. Charlotte nodded. Yes, you can do whatever you want. Then take a shower with me. Shinta Tianyin took Charlotte's hand and walked to the bathroom. I still have a little antidote left. You won't stop me from using it, right? Charlotte was speechless. Chapter 1195. The warm water, the many bubbles, the man and the woman intertwined together. Bathing was actually a false proposition. When the passion subsided, two drenched figures burrowed into the blanket. Under the thin blanket, one could faintly see shone two Tianins undulating in graceful body curves, as well as Xiaolei's. He had a sexiness that could make a woman's ears turn red. Shidu Tianin's head was resting on Charlotte's arm, but her eyes were on a glass bottle next to the bed. There was only a little bit of antidote left inside the glass bottle, and it could probably be used one more time. Charlotte, on the other hand, was still staring at the oil painting, trying to guess the secret of the forest of no return and Zhu Xuanyue's plan. However, he knew too little. Even with a brain that could rival a supercomputer, he could not come up with a reliable conclusion. However, it was easy to imagine the worst-case scenario, and that was the invasion of Zhu Xuanyue's own kind, and the humans at the top of the food chain would be reduced to food. A pure energy species would enter this world, and they would be able to control the human brain at will. They would be able to hunt for food in the world and become stronger. That day, it would be the end of the world. If Zhu Xuanyue's plan is really to destroy this world, then why didn't the prehistoric only one stop him? After all, he belongs to this world, and he is Zhu Xuanyue's mortal enemy. So why didn't he come to stop Zhu Xianyue? Charlotte could not understand this question. If the prehistoric only one appeared and attacked Zhu Xianyue, then he and the prehistoric only one would have a chance to stop Zhu Xianyue. However, the prehistoric only one did not appear. Hubby, the medicine that Yin gave me is about to run out. Do you think? Shinda Tianin's voice broke the silence on the bed. She looked rather shy. Do you think I'm pregnant? Charlotte collected his thoughts. He reached one hand into the blanket and placed it lightly on Shinto Tianin's stomach. Her abdomen was smooth and flat, warm and delicate. Go on, baby skin. He gently stroked it and said with a smile, I feel a little guy kicking your stomach. Yes, you must be pregnant. Huh. Shinto Tianin laughed like a child. Do you think I'm a 12-year-old girl? Even if you're pregnant, you won't be able to feel it. How long has it been? Fan can detect it. She is the best bioengineer in the country, Charlotte said, but he suddenly realized that he had said something wrong. He and Shinda Tianin were secretly dating in order to satisfy her wish to have a child. Under such circumstances, how could Shinda Tianin ask Fan for help? Sure enough, the smile on Shinto Tianin's face disappeared, and a hint of sadness flashed across his eyes. Will you come to me after returning to China? Charlotte didn't know how to answer this question for a moment. Shinto Tianin's expression darkened. What about when I give birth? Charlotte held her in his arms. Of course I'll come to see you. When you give birth, of course I'll be by your side. If that was what she wanted, he could give it to her. It wasn't a big deal to have a rendezvous for half a month until the day of his death came. If Shinta Tianin was really pregnant with his child and gave birth to his child, he should also fulfill his role as a husband and father, although Shinta Tianin didn't ask for any status now. Only then did Shinta Tianin become happy again. She used her cheek to gently rub against Xia Lei's cheek. Meeting you is the luckiest thing that happened in my life. I lost you once, and that was my stupidity. I won't lose you again. Charlotte kissed her forehead, but he sighed in his heart. His time was running out. He was destined to leave her. When that time came, she would be hurt more than when he divorced her, and he was powerless to change it. Tianin, if I leave this world one day, you have to take good care of the child and raise the child. Okay? Charlotte said. Shinda Tianin was stunned for a moment. Then she reached out and pinched Charlotte's waist. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't want to hear you say such things. I wanted to watch our son get married and watch our daughter get married. You're not allowed to leave. I won't allow you to leave. Promise me, okay? Charlotte smiled and nodded. I promise you. Shinta Tianin kissed Charlotte's cheek. That soft hand was a little naughty. Charlotte suddenly untied the thin blanket. Shinta Tianin let out a squeal and reached out to cover the important part, but she couldn't cover it all. She said angrily and embarrassedly, What are you doing? Charlotte said, I'm looking at the condition of your stomach. I can see if there's a child inside. I don't believe you. Shinta Tianyin felt that Charlotte wanted to see her, not the child. Be good and lie down. I'll take a look, Charlotte said. Shinta Tianyin put both her hands down. He wanted to see, and she would let him see. His attempt to cover it up just now was just a hypocritical act. Charlotte's gaze fell on Shinta Tianyin's lower abdomen. Her lower abdomen was like congealed fat, and it was too wonderful for words. He felt that he could look at it like this for 3 years without getting tired. Shinta Tianyin twisted her waist. What do you see? You're a pervert. Charlotte's left and right eyes suddenly entered the extraordinary mode of X-ray and scanning, and instantly entered her lower abdomen. After entering the lower abdomen, he awakened the microvision ability. Under the effect of these 3 abilities, a holographic image of a uterus appeared in his brain. A minute later, he saw 2 fertilized eggs in the holographic image of a uterus. This discovery made Charlotte stunned for a moment, and then he laughed out loud. Tianyin, you're pregnant. There are 2, but I don't know if it's a boy and a girl, or 2 boys and 2 girls. He could see the fertilized eggs, but he couldn't see the gender of the fertilized eggs. After all, they hadn't developed enough to distinguish the gender. Really? Shinta Tianyin was also stunned. Charlotte nodded. It's true, believe me. Shinta Tianyin let out a cry and suddenly climbed up, hugging Charlotte tightly. Because of her excitement, her voice seemed to be trembling. I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to be a mother of 2 children. Ha ha ha. Charlotte covered her little mouth. Sure. Do you want people to hear us and laugh at us? Shinta Tianyin suppressed the excitement in her heart and nodded. Her voice also became smaller. Then I'll speak in a lower voice. Honey, I love you, I love you. Xiaolei kissed the tip of her nose. Shinta Tianyin kissed his lips. The 2 names you gave them can be used. The boy will be called Xia Yang, and the girl will be called Xia Yu. Charlotte said with a smile. As I said, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. It could be 2 boys or 2 girls. Then they will be called Xia Yang and Xia Yu. You're the child's father, so it's up to you to name them, Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte pressed his cheek against Shinta Tianyin's lower abdomen. Her lower abdomen was soft and warm, like a heated jelly. It also had a faint, enchanting body fragrance, and his gaze inevitably moved downwards. So, he felt that his whole body was heating up, and he was ready to make a move. Shinta Tianyin lay on Charlotte's head and caressed his face. Her hair was especially gentle. Charlotte was ignited just like that, and he pressed her under his body. Be gentle, we're pregnant, Shinta Tianyin said and closed her eyes shyly. Charlotte nodded carefully. This time, Shinta Tianyin threw the antidote to the back of her mind. Happiness was that simple. She had obtained it. Although the process was complicated and it was not easy to obtain, the feeling of all this was so wonderful and precious. Dawn came quietly, and the golden sunlight shone in through the window. The ground was covered with golden light spots, and the bed was snow white. The scenery outside the window was charming, and the scenery inside the window was alluring. Charlotte got up early in the morning. He wanted to wake up Shinta Tianyin, but seeing that she was sleeping soundly with a peaceful smile on her face, he could not bear to wake her. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Charlotte looked over and saw Akiko Tsukino standing at the door. Charlotte went over to open the door and walked out. When facing Akiko Tsukino, an awkward smile appeared on his face. Akiko, are we leaving? Akiko Tsukino handed her satellite phone to Charlotte. Your call. Charlotte was slightly stunned. Whose call? Akiko Tsukino said, It's Dad's. Call him. He's waiting for you. Charlotte dialed his father's number, and the call was quickly connected. Charlotte. Yes, Dad. Charlotte said, Where are you? I want to see you. He had too many things to ask Xia Changha. I'm in Israel, Jerusalem. What are you doing in Jerusalem? Don't worry about that. I'll tell you when I come back. When will you come back? Charlotte was a little dissatisfied. Your grandchildren can already speak, but they haven't even seen their grandfather. What are you busy with? You have to believe that everything I do is for you. Charlotte sighed. Well, why did you call me this time? Xiao Changhe was silent for a moment before he said, "Something big is coming. You have to be prepared." "What big thing?" Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. "Dad, what do you know?" "A huge disaster is about to happen. I think you know what I'm talking about." Xiao Changhe said, "The Kirsten with that woman isn't a real person. He's very dangerous and will affect your plan. You have to kill him no matter what." "What do you know about him?" "He's a replica of Da Vinci." "How did you know?" Charlotte was shocked. He had found out from Zhu Xianyue. If Zhu Xianyue had not told him, he would never have believed that Kirsten was a replica of Da Vinci. Then, where did Dad find out about this secret? "I have my own channels. I know you have a lot of questions to ask me. I've said that I'll tell you when I come back. Be careful and kill Kirsten." "I will. That's all for now. Take care." Xiao Changhe hung up. Charlotte was stunned for a few seconds before he returned the call to Akiko Tsukino. Last night, Akiko Tsukino had a strange expression on her face. "Did you have fun?" Charlotte hesitated for a moment before he said, "When we return, I'll accompany you to the place where you practice swordsmanship. Let's spar. What do you think?" This was a secret signal between the two of them. The pond on the mountain behind Rema Group was where Akiko Tsukino practiced swordsmanship. When he was in China, Akiko Tsukino would always ask him to go to the mountain to spar whenever she missed him. Of course, it was hard to say what kind of spar they would spar with. Akiko Tsukino smiled and suddenly kissed Charlotte on the cheek. This time, Charlotte was touched. Akiko Tsukino turned to leave and said, "Wake her up. We'll leave after dinner." Charlotte smiled. Okay. Women and children were probably the only things that could make him relax and happy. Chapter 1196. From the time he first arrived in China, it had been a peaceful journey. Zhu Xianyue had copied Da Vinci, whose family was mysterious and powerful and could influence the decisions of the United States. This was bad news for the whole world, but it was good news for Charlotte. As long as Zhu Xianyue was unwilling, neither the CIA, the FA organization, nor even the Pentagon could do anything to him. The reason was simple. How could anyone who went against Zhu Xianyue end up well? The war that happened in the Forest of No Return was reported by the media, and China also protested. However, the result was not surprising, and Boca's sacred land became the scapegoat. The United States denied it, and Boca's sacred land also claimed responsibility. No matter how much evidence the Wanxiang group had, it was useless. The trip to Nigeria seemed to be a milestone. After returning to China, neither Charlotte nor Rema Group encountered any more trouble. Whether it was at home or abroad, everything calmed down. However, Charlotte knew that this should be the last calm. The prehistoric only gave him 3 years, and Zhu Xianyue was also waiting for this time. That day was the day of his death, and now he had one less day to live. Once that day came, he would also usher in the strongest storm of his life. Therefore, this was also the calm before the storm. Even so, after returning to China, Charlotte still plunged into the research of Rema Group's super fighter and strategic bomber. This was also his last wish before the end of his life. He wanted to contribute his last strength to this country and people. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Ping and residence. "Dad!" Xiao Fan pushed open the door of the study and ran in. Her blushing face was full of grievance. "Brother bullied me." Charlotte put down the work in his hands, got up, and walked toward her. He said with a smile, "Which brother bullied our little Fan? Tell Dad. Dad will criticize him." "Brother Xiaolong," Xiao Fan said in a childish voice. "I was drawing on the ground in the yard, and he peed on my painting." Charlotte, at this moment, Xiao Long poked his head out from the door, looking a little guilty. "Dad, I just wanted to add a river to my sister's painting." Then he said, "I'm so obedient. Can you bear to criticize me?" Charlotte, before the conflict between Xia Fan and Xiao Long could be resolved, Liang Jiayu and Xia Jianghe walked in. "Daddy," Liang Jiayu frowned. "Xia Jianghe broke my toy." Xia Jianghe said, "Dad, brother Jiayu broke my doll." The 4 brats quarreled in the study. Charlotte's head swelled little by little, and he began to feel dizzy. Normal children couldn't even speak when they were half a year old, let alone quarreling while walking, but his children were already drawing, playing with toys, and quarreling. What made him not know whether to laugh or cry was that he had to mediate similar disputes several times a day. Can't you all just get along? Share toys, play games together. Must you all fight? Charlotte acted like a strict father, not siding with anyone, and criticized all four brats. Brother Xia Long is clearly in the wrong. Xia Fan said, I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to add a river to your painting, Xia Long said. You pay for my toy, Liang Jiayu said. You pay for my doll, Xia Jiang has said. What a strict father. There was no dignity at all. The four brats continued to quarrel. Charlotte hugged his head and said to himself, God, save me. Tang Yuyin suddenly walked in from the door. Hey, what are you all doing? Quarreling in your father's study so early in the morning, you'll affect his work. Charlotte prayed to a god to save him, and the god sent him a goddess. Tang Yuyin's belly was already slightly protruding. She spent less time going to innings 101 now, and most of the time, she was in Ping and residence commanding remotely. If it was someone else, it would definitely not work, but she was pregnant with Charlotte's child, so she could. The higher-ups of the country already knew how smart Charlotte's children were. Every time Charlotte gave birth to a child, it was equivalent to giving birth to a super talent for the country, who would complain about having too many. How could they not protect them well? Tang Yin placed a cup of oolong tea on Charlotte's desk and said gently, Honey, it's just been brewed. It's a little hot. You can drink it later. Charlotte smiled and nodded. Wunyang, Xiaolong said, Have you seen my mother? Tang Yuyin said, Yes, she's outside. Speaking of Long Bing walked in. Little Long, why are you looking for your mother? Mother, I'm hungry. Xiaolong spread his little arms and ran to Long Bing. Mother, I want milk. Long Bing was embarrassed. You've been running all over the place, and it's good enough to just eat. You still want milk? I'm not giving it to you. No, I want to eat. I want to eat. Xiaolong rolled on the ground and begged. Long Bing had no choice but to lift up her clothes and feed Xia Long milk. Sanyang, I want to eat too. Liang Jiu anxiously walked in front of Long Bing and looked at Xia Lei, who was eating with relish. He was extremely envious. A few black lines appeared on Long Bing's forehead. Go find your mother. I don't have any left. Liang Jiu pouted. There's still one left. Long Bing was at a loss for words. At this moment, Jiang Rui, Liang Xiao, and Fan Fan came in. The whole family was gathered in the study. The other three children wanted milk, and the three mothers lifted up their clothes to feed them. The study was filled with the sound of slurping, and the beautiful scenery made them even more excited. Yuyin, your belly is bigger now. How are you feeling? Long Bing asked. Tang Yuyin said with a smile, I just feel a little bloated and a little clumsy. My movements are not as nimble as before. That's for sure. You have another child in your belly, so you can't be as nimble as before. You should exercise less, Long Bing said with concern. Tang Yuyin smiled at Long Bing. Honey, how's your research on the plane? Liang Xiao asked Charlotte. Charlotte said, It's finished today. So soon? Fan Fan was surprised. That's a fighter plane and a bomber plane. Charlotte smiled. It's just the blueprints and software. It'll take at least a year to build the Yama fighter plane and the Kuan Peng bomber plane at the same time. Fan Fan's eyes were full of admiration. I'm afraid you're the only one in the world who can do this. Our country has been developing fighter planes for decades, but we've always been stuck at the stage of imitation. We've been restricted in every way. But you've ended this humiliating history. I'll make a call right now and tell the chief the good news. He'll be very happy. Xia Fan didn't agree. Mom, wait until I'm full. You child. Fan Fan slapped Xia Fan's butt, but she didn't take out her phone and make the call. In her heart, the child's feeding was as important as the country's affairs. Xiao Long raised his head from Long Bing's embrace and said, When I grow up, I must study a milk that can't be finished no matter how much I eat. Long Bing was stunned. Then she slapped Xiao Long's butt. You little brat. Why are you researching that kind of thing? To eat. Xiao Long said confidently. Long Bing slapped Xiao Long's butt again. What else do you want to learn? Learn from your father. Charlotte was unjustly implicated. Xia Jianghe raised her head from Jiang Rui's arms. Milk stains were still on the corners of her mouth. Dad, why do we have so many mothers in our family, while others only have one? Charlotte was also stunned. He couldn't answer this question. Children who were too smart could also be troublesome. In this family, these children could figure out the situation before they were a year old. At that time, as a father, he still couldn't explain to his children why they had so many mothers, while others only had one. Honey, have a sip of tea. It's getting cold. Tang Yuyan handed the teacup to Charlotte. Charlotte bit the bullet and took a sip. His stomach suddenly turned, and it was very uncomfortable. He then put the teacup down again and changed the topic. It had been more than 3 months, and his normal disgust for food had reached a very serious level. At first, he didn't have any symptoms of nausea toward tea, but now the reaction was very strong. Fortunately, he didn't have a strong reaction to energy bars, which was why he hadn't hunted for food until now. Since he took the last AE capsule, he had only hunted for a large python in that small forest in Africa. He didn't prey on his own kind and become a demon. Honey, will it affect your work if we feed the child here? Jiang Rui asked. Charlotte smiled and said, It won't affect me. Watching you feed the child can make my mind more active. In fact, his brain was always working, even when he was with his woman and children. Jiang Rui spat lightly. I knew you would say that. Don't say such things in front of the child in the future. It will lead the child astray. Xia Jianghe raised her little head from her granary and rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Bad father. Charlotte was speechless. The study was filled with laughter. The more joyful the atmosphere, the sadder Charlotte felt. How he wished he could see his children grow up, see them get married, become their children's grandfather, and love their mother until they grew old. However, he didn't have much time left. He wouldn't be able to see them grow up. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Tang Yuyan's phone suddenly rang. She picked it up. It's me. Speak. A man's voice came from the phone. Don't you have to go to work now? There's something important happening internationally. Come back for a meeting. This was Tang Buochuan's voice. Charlotte heard it very clearly. The tone of Tang Buochuan's voice made Charlotte very uncomfortable. Tang Buochuan was Tang Yuyan's subordinate, but he spoke to Tang Yuyan like a boss. I'll be right there. Tang Yuyan hung up the phone and said to Charlotte, Honey, I'm going back to innings 101 for a meeting. Go ahead. Call me if you need anything, Charlotte said. Tang Yuyan said goodbye to the other 4 women and then left. Charlotte put away the hacker's computer and said, I'm going to the company for a meeting. Tomorrow, Rema Group will start manufacturing the first Hades fighter and Kuan Peng bomber. So soon? Fan couldn't believe Charlotte's decision. The sooner the better. I'm leaving. Charlotte took the laptop out of the door. Jiang Rui said, Come back for lunch. I'll cook something delicious for you. Charlotte said in a hurry, No, I don't think I can come back. You guys eat. Don't worry about me. Eating had become the most painful thing for him now. Chapter 1197. After a meeting that only the core members of Rema Group attended, Charlotte went to the fighter workshop in the new factory area with Anina and Sylvia. The 2 fighter workshops, one belonging to Yama and the other to Kuan Peng, were built with money, manpower, and equipment provided by the state. Only with the intervention of the state could such a fighter workshop be built in just a few months. The 2 fighter workshops were also the largest workshops of Rema Group, and they would undoubtedly become the heart and fist of China's Air Force. Entering Yama's workshop, the workshop was spacious and bright, and hundreds of workers were debugging the assembly line. It was a busy scene. Lucas, are you sure you want to start the production plan tomorrow? Sylvia asked Charlotte for the 3rd time. I'm sure, Charlotte said. I don't have that much time to wait. Anina looked at Charlotte curiously. Lucas, what do you mean? Charlotte smiled. Nothing, I'm just anxious to build our Yama and Kuan Peng. Ask the workers to work overtime for hours and pay them triple the salary. That's a lot of money, Anina reminded. Money isn't a problem, Charlotte said. The workers have worked hard, and they should be rewarded. Anina shrugged. All right, I'll tell them. The workers will definitely be happy. For hours of overtime a day, for triple the salary, no one would refuse such a job. The families of the workers would probably be happy too. After all, it was a lot of money, and it could improve the lives of their families. All right, the workers aren't a problem. Our assembly line is almost done, and the equipment that needs to be improved has also been improved. However, it's not easy to build a fighter plane. A fighter plane or bomber needs tens of thousands of parts, and we need the blueprints of Yama and Peng, the standards for the parts, the software, and everything else. Have you prepared all of these? I've prepared all of these, and I'll give you everything you need later, Charlotte said. That's great. We'll contact the bases in Haizhu and Shu after we get them, and ask them to produce the parts for us, Sylvia said. Sylvia said, if the two sub-bases can't produce it, we can purchase it from the market and refine it to the standard we need. No, we won't buy the parts from the market this time, so we'll make the parts ourselves with X mystical gold, Charlotte said. X mystical gold? Oh my God, isn't that too much? Anina looked surprised. The U.S. has a Dragon Slayer project, and Lockheed Martin is researching a super fighter plane called Dragon Slayer. I believe that our Yama will fight with it eventually, Charlotte said. We can't take any of the inferior parts on the market, and we'll make the most perfect fighter plane in the world. All right then, looks like I'll be busy for a while. Sylvia looked helpless, but her heart was filled with excitement and anticipation. If they used X mystical gold to build fighter planes and bombers, then Yama and Peng would undoubtedly be the kings of the sky in the future. The United States was indeed in an all-round leading position in the field of fighter jets and bombers. The Dragon Slayer designed by Lockheed Martin must also be a product that integrated the most advanced technology of the entire United States. Even so, it could not surpass Yama and Peng. The reason was simple. Although the U.S. had more advanced technology and manufacturing experience, it didn't have the Thunder Dragon smart machine tool that Rema Group had. More importantly, the designer of the Dragon Slayer superfighter plane was Kirsten, who was a replica of Da Vinci, and his IQ wasn't as high as Charlotte's. And he didn't have Charlotte's super brain, which was almost comparable to a supercomputer. Of course, this was just the analysis on paper. The U.S. had its own advantages and strengths, and the final result would only be confirmed after they created Yama and Peng and fought with the Dragon Slayer. Lucas, will you work overtime with us? Sylvia looked at Charlotte with anticipation and ambiguity. Charlotte could read all the information contained in her eyes. He smiled and said, of course I'll work overtime with you guys. Some of the core components can't be done without me. That's great. Sylvia gave Charlotte a hug excitedly. Anina also came over to hug Charlotte and whispered in his ear, I've been looking forward to working overtime with you for a long time. Charlotte knew what the two German girls wanted, and he had to satisfy them. Only then would they do their best for Rema Group. They weren't China people, and they didn't have a sense of belonging to China, let alone love it. The reason why they were still working at Rema Group was because of him. If he didn't satisfy their desires, how could they do their best? Beep, 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 beep. As soon as he finished hugging Anina, Charlotte's satellite phone rang. It was Tang Yuyan. Her voice was full of anxiety and worry. Honey, are you still at home? Charlotte said, I'm at the company. What happened? Something happened. A group of experts came and told us some things, and then they asked to see you, said Tang Yuyan. Charlotte suddenly had a bad premonition. He said, what kind of group of experts is that? What did they talk to you about? Why did they ask to persuade me? They didn't tell me why they wanted to see you. I asked, but they said it was confidential. As for other things, you can come over first. I'll tell you when we meet, said Tang Yuyan. Okay, I'll be right there. Charlotte hung up the phone. What happened? Asked Sylvia. Charlotte said, I don't know. I'll go and have a look. Call me if anything happens. All right, said Sylvia. Anina asked, will it affect our plan? Charlotte said, no matter what happens, it won't affect our plan. An hour later, 101 innings. The beast-like Knight 15 arrived at 101 innings. Before he could stop, Tang Yuyan went up to him. She had a big belly and walked like a penguin. Charlotte hurriedly stopped the car and walked to her. He said worriedly, you shouldn't have come to pick me up if it's not convenient for you. It's not like I don't know the way. What if I hurt the baby? Tang Yuyan felt sweet in her heart. She smiled and said, I'm not that delicate. I'll be fine if I walk a little. Don't be so nervous. Of course, You're pregnant with my son. Charlotte hugged her waist, his eyes full of tenderness and love. Are you sure it's a son? Tang Yuyin curled up the corner of her mouth. But I prefer a daughter. Then it's a daughter, said Charlotte. Tang Yuyin, arriving at the headquarters of 101 innings, Charlotte met the group of experts that Tang Yuyin had mentioned. The head of this group of experts was a middle-aged man named Yang Changhai. He was tall and thin and wore old-fashioned glasses. He gave people the feeling that he was a university professor. Charlotte also saw his brother-in-law, Tang Buchuan. However, he didn't greet Tang Buchuan. He only greeted Yang Changhai. Hello, Chief Yang. Yang Changhai also came over to shake hands with Xia Lei, and he was the one who took the initiative to extend his hands. His tone was also very polite. Mr. Xia, I'm not considered a chief here. You can just call me Big Brother Yang. Haha, you're not old. We become friends, Brother Yang, Charlotte said with a smile. Okay, let's be friends, Mr. Xia. Brother Yang, don't call me Mr. Xia. Just call me Charlotte. You can also call me Little Xia. I don't dare to call you Little Xia. I'll call you Charlotte. Yang Changhai said with a smile. Everyone says that you're a rare talent in our nation for thousands of years. Seeing you today, you're really extraordinary. You're a talent. The two of them exchanged a few polite words and sat down. Tang Buchuan interrupted. Charlotte, when are you going to bring Yu Yin back for a meal? We all miss Yu Yin, especially my mother. She cries when she thinks of Yu Yin. Charlotte smiled. If he hadn't heard Tang Buchuan speak to Tang Yu Yin in that tone on the phone, he might have believed it. Now that Tang Buchuan said such words in front of him, if he still believed that the Tang family had forgiven Tang Yuyin and had no other intentions, then he was really a fool. Then I'll take it that you've agreed. How about tonight? Tang Buchuan said with a smile. Tang Yuyin frowned. From her expression, it was clear that she didn't want to go back. Charlotte saw it and understood very well in his heart. Tang Buchuan spoke to Tang Yuyin in that tone on the phone, without any respect or affection. Tang Buchuan was like this. How could Tang Tianlong and Tang Yunhai's attitude towards Tang Yuyin be good? Well, let's do this. Charlotte then spoke to his brother-in-law. If you want Yu Yin, then come to Ping and Ju. I'm not free during this time, so I can't accompany Yu Yin back to her parents' home. Then Yu Yin can go back. A gleam of displeasure flashed through Tang Buchuan's eyes. Tang Yuyin was about to say something, but Charlotte said before she could, Yu Yin is not free either. She has to make dinner for me after work. You. Tang Buchuan was instantly furious. Who dared to disrespect the future head of the Tang family? But in front of Xia Lei, his brother-in-law, he was not even worth a fart. What made him even angrier was that he didn't dare to do anything to Charlotte, even though he had been humiliated like this. Brother, Tang Yuyin said, I don't want to go back. If my parents and grandpa really miss me, they can come to Pinggan Street to see me. Humph, Tang Buchuan snorted. You've grown up now, haven't you? You don't even care about your parents and grandpa now, do you? I didn't mean that at all, Tang Yuyin said. Then why don't you go back? Tang Buchuan's tone was very firm, as if he was a brother lecturing his sister. Tang Yuyin wanted to say something, but she didn't say it out. In fact, she knew very well why her parents and grandpa wanted her to go back. She was pregnant now, and her parents and grandpa probably wanted Charlotte to make a will and get the original shares of Rema Group. And she didn't even want to mention it now. She just wanted to be with Charlotte and give birth to the child. Say something. Tang Buchuan continued to put pressure on Tang Yuyin. Bang! Charlotte slapped the table and said coldly, Tang Buchuan, why are you so fierce? Tang Buchuan suddenly felt a little guilty, but he bit the bullet and said, I'm talking to my sister. As her brother, I asked her to go home to see her father and grandpa. Is it wrong? Charlotte said coldly, She is my woman, and she is pregnant with my child. If you scare my child, can you afford to pay for it? I don't think it's enough, even if you give me the whole Tang family. There was a threat in this sentence. Tang Buchuan was extremely unwilling, but he didn't dare to talk back to Charlotte at all. Who could afford to offend Charlotte now? The atmosphere in the meeting room became awkward. Yang Changhai glanced at Tang Buchuan and then said, Chief Tang, please leave for a while. Tang Buchuan looked very surprised. He didn't expect such a thing to happen at all. Yang Changhai said, "Chief Tang, I'm very sorry. What we're going to talk about next requires a high enough level and authority to know." This sentence was actually very polite. If it was not polite and said it out loud, it would mean that his level was not high enough, and he would ask him to leave. Tang Buochuan was stunned for a moment. Then he got up and left. When he went out, he slammed the door heavily. This was a performance of immaturity. He was very clear, but he couldn't help it at all. Chapter 1198. Yu Yin, I'm sorry, Charlotte said apologetically. I couldn't see him force you or bully you, so I couldn't help it. Tang Yuyin held Charlotte's hand from under the table. Hubby, I'm fine. You don't have to apologize to me. I know what they want to do. Well, let's talk business. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. Brother Yang, my brother-in-law, doesn't know any better. He's made a fool of himself in front of you. Yang Changhai said, it's okay. Who doesn't have some family matters to deal with? Well, let's talk business. Brother Yang, go ahead, Charlotte said. Yang Changhai said, before I talk, please watch a video. A member of the expert team took out a laptop and placed it in front of Charlotte and Tang Yuyin. Then, he played the video that had been prepared beforehand. The location of the video was the forest of No Return in Nigeria, a mine of the Friendship Mining Company. Charlotte was no stranger to this place. He recognized it at a glance. The mine was filled with black stone bricks. Those were the stone bricks of the underground pyramid. Loading trucks were transporting the black stone bricks onto the Galaxy C-5 transport aircraft. This transport aircraft was the largest strategic transport aircraft produced by Lockheed Martin Corporation. It had a maximum takeoff weight of 379 tons and could carry more than 200 tons of cargo. It was the largest transport aircraft in the world. It was not just one Galaxy C-5 transport aircraft. There were more than 10 Galaxy C-5 transport aircraft parked in the mine. At the end of the mine, a newly built runway appeared on the display. In order to transport the black stone bricks away, the United States had built a runway for this purpose. On both sides of the runway, tanks and armored vehicles could be seen everywhere, as well as fully armed Special Forces soldiers. The former Friendship Mining Company had become a military base. Charlotte thought to himself, could it be that the underground pyramid is no longer useful to Zhu Xianyue? So she demolished it? What does she want to do by demolishing the pyramid? Extract rare metals for Kirsten to build the Dragon Slayer? If so, why does she want a Dragon Slayer? The scene suddenly changed to the forest of no return. Several construction machines were digging holes in the forest. There were thousands of corpses beside an undug pit. Some were young, some were old, and some were children. Beside the pit that had yet to be dug, there were two other pits that had already been dug. Construction machines were filling the pits with soil. The pits were filled with corpses, and they were so densely packed that it was impossible to count them all. These were 3 graves of 10,000 people. The scene changed again, this time to a slum in New Delhi, India. Several epidemic prevention personnel were using spray guns to disinfect the slums. Corpses could be seen everywhere on the screen. A child walked and fell to the ground, never to get up again. His mother wept beside him, heartbroken. The epidemic prevention personnel numbly sprayed the disinfectant on the woman's body and then walked past her and the child. In another part of the slums, a group of people suddenly went crazy and attacked their compatriots without warning. There were men, women, and even children in the group. They used stones and wooden sticks to smash people to death. Some even did things that were worse than beasts to women. The scene changed for the 3rd time, and the ground became a small city in Mexico. The Mexican army and police blocked the city, not allowing anyone to enter or leave. On a road in the blockade, some people tried to rush out, but were mercilessly shot. The road was full of people's cars, some of which could be seen with corpses. A girl carrying a school bag walked to the blockade, crying. But before she could get close, she fell to the ground and never got up again. Behind her, a group of people were attacking another group of people in a frenzy without warning. The scene was bloody. The video ended here. Charlotte's back was numb. Tang Yuyin's feelings were not much better. She grabbed Charlotte's hand, unable to suppress the fear and nervousness in her heart. Charlotte was silent for a moment before he said, "Brother Yang, this video it was taken by our spies." Yang Changhai said, "Different spies, different videos. We combined these videos together to make this video. For this video, we have sacrificed 5 spies. Spies were different from special agents. Spies lurked in a certain environment to carry out secret missions, which were usually long-term and hidden." Yang Changhai mentioned spies and sacrificed 5 spies, so this team of experts had actually targeted them long ago. Charlotte's eyes moved to Yang Changhai. He hesitated to steal the information in Yang Changhai's brain. If it was an enemy or someone he didn't know, he would have done so. However, Yang Changhai was obviously one of them. It was not a glorious thing to casually steal information from someone else's brain. After hesitating for a moment, Charlotte gave up for the time being. He decided to observe and listen to Yang Changhai's words before making a decision. He said, "Brother Yang, can you tell me what your team of experts is targeting? When was it established?" Yang Changhai said, "Our team of experts was established before you established Rema Group. It's called the Dawn Office. I'm the director of this office. We are targeting ancient alloys, and of course, we also include the members of the expert team who died mysteriously." Charlotte understood. The country had never given up on the research of ancient alloys. For a period of time, he was even included in the research target. Later, he researched and manufactured the Scavenger Infantry Fighting Vehicle and the ZZ-100 main battle tank. The benefits to the country far exceeded the benefits of researching him, so they stopped the research on him. Now it seemed that the Dawn Office had been on the move. Otherwise, they wouldn't have obtained video information that even 101 innings couldn't get. Now that the Dawn Office had surfaced and taken the initiative to find him, it was obvious that things had developed to a very critical point. Then, Charlotte thought of Zhu Xianhua. He couldn't help but have a question in his heart. Was this Zhu Xuanyue's plan? Had her kind come to this world? If so, it would be the end of the world. Yang Changhai said, "The brains of the previous team of experts who studied ancient alloys quickly shrank and decayed after they died. The corpses in the video are the same. This kind of corpse has always been a clue we have been tracking. For a period of time, similar corpses appeared in the United States, and we specially investigated them. The Americans thought that there was a killer responsible for those murders, and the CIA gave the killer the code name Killer X. At first, we also thought so, a terrible killer. However, after watching this video, we don't think so. We think that there is an organization, an anti-human terrorist organization, and they have a terrible virus in their hands. This organization appeared after the appearance of ancient alloys, so we have reason to think that it is related to ancient alloys." Charlotte didn't speak, but his eyes had changed. He wanted to know what Yang Changhai knew, and he also wanted to know the situation of the people in the Dawn Office and the extent of the investigation. According to Yang Changhai's description, the investigation and judgment of the Dawn Office were actually very reliable. "Charlotte, you're a person who studies ancient alloys. I believe you must know something. We came to you to get some information from you. As you can see, things have developed to a very critical point. At present, the virus is only spreading in India, Mexico, and Nigeria. It is difficult to guarantee that it will not spread to our country. Before that, we must be prepared to deal with it." In the time it took for Yang Changhai to speak, Charlotte had already finished stealing information from his brain. There were not many people in the Dawn Office. There were archaeologists, biologists, physics experts, criminal investigation experts, and senior spies. That was Yang Changhai in front of him. He was the leader of the spies, and he reported directly to the leader. What surprised Charlotte was that Yang Changhai didn't hide anything from him. Everything he said was true. There was some information about peaceful in Yang Changhai's brain, but he didn't know much. After our analysis and research, we suspect that the organization and the virus are related to ancient alloys. Charlotte, you must remember someone. Yang Changhai looked straight at Charlotte. Charlotte knew that the person he was going to mention was peaceful, but he still asked, "Who? Peaceful?" Yang Changhai said, She was the only survivor of the entire expert team, but she disappeared inexplicably. We suspect that the organization used the virus to kill our experts, but Peaceful's body should have antibodies that are immune to the virus. She is very important to us. Do you know where she is? Charlotte was silent for a moment before shaking his head. I don't know where she is. Peaceful, in a sense, had disappeared. She was now part of Zhu Xianhua. If she told the people in Dawn office that Zhu Xianhua was in America or Nigeria, it was the same as sending them to their deaths. Even he could not defeat an enemy. So how could Dawn office defeat it? We know you have many channels. Can you help us find her? That is not a problem. I will help you find Peaceful, Charlotte said. But I can't promise you that. It's good that you are willing to help. Do what you can, Yang Changhai said. Also, I want to know how far the research on ancient alloys has progressed. Charlotte smiled. Secret Gold X is the result of studying ancient alloys. It is a very impressive result. You can't expect me to get something all of a sudden, right? You have to give me some time. No problem. That is all. I look forward to your good news, Yang Changhai said. Then I will go back and arrange it. Charlotte shook Yang Changhai's hand and stood up to leave. Tang Yuyin left with him. In the conference room, the expert who played the video said, "Is what he said true?" Yang Changhai had a wry smile. "I don't know. I can't see anything on him. But our goal is to tell him what has happened. He knows what to do. He is the guardian of our country." Chapter 1199. Walking out of the conference room, Charlotte and Tang Yuyin entered her office. Beep, 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 beep. Charlotte's satellite phone suddenly rang. It was Siamu who called. His voice was full of tension and anxiety. "Boss, something big happened." "What happened?" Charlotte had already guessed what he wanted to say. Sure enough, Siamu said, "Something big happened in Nigeria, India, and Mexico. Come back quickly. I have information for you." "I'll be back soon." Charlotte hung up the phone. China's intelligence system was definitely more efficient than Siamu's, so Dawn's office received the information first, and Siamu received it later. If nothing unexpected happened, he would also receive information from the Rescue Society. The Rescue Society's intelligence system operated slower than Siamu's. What happened? Tang Yuyin was full of worry. "I just saw the corpses in the video, and those crazy people. I'm very scared." The fact that the director of 101 Innings was afraid showed the seriousness of the matter. Of course, the biggest reason why Tang Yuyin was afraid was the child in her belly. As long as a woman was pregnant with a child, she would become very timid. If Tang Yuyin were to fight with the enemy with a gun now, she would definitely not be as brave as before. Charlotte held her in his arms. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. I will protect you and the child." Tang Yuyin snuggled in Charlotte's arms for a while. "Honey, let's go back. I want to go home." "Well, let's go home." Charlotte suddenly picked up Tang Yuyin and left her office. Walking into the public office area, everyone's eyes focused on Charlotte and Tang Yuyin. The dignified Director Tang curled up in Charlotte's arms like a little bird. This scene caused quite a shock in the hearts of the comrades. When did our Chief Tang become so gentle? How rare. That depends on who it is. The man who hugged her is Charlotte, the owner of Rema Group. To be a man, you have to be like Charlotte. He married 5 wives, and the country even gave him special permission. What was more impressive was that his ex-wife was Shinta Tianyin, the richest woman in China. "My house belongs to the Wanxiang Group. If only I could talk to Charlotte and ask him to waive my mortgage." In your dreams, our director is a member of the Tang family. The Tang family should be careful with what you say. Facing so many people's gazes and whispers, Charlotte and Tang Yuyin still went their own way. They didn't care about others' gazes at all. Tang Buchuan also saw this scene, and his face became hot. He felt that everyone was laughing at the Tang family. Their gazes and discussions were also a kind of mockery. The Tang family, which had hundreds of years of history, had become worthless in their eyes. They had become a joke. There was a trace of hatred in Tang Buchuan's heart. It was like a seed that was slowly germinating and growing roots. Tang Yuyin didn't even go to work. She followed Charlotte back to Peace House. Charlotte went to the Holy Thunder Church. In the secret room of the church, he met the members of the Zodiac team and his 4 female knights. Both the members of the Zodiac team and the 4 female knights looked very serious. Saimu went straight to the point. "Boss, something has happened, and it's a big one," Charlotte said. "It's about India, Nigeria, and Mexico, right?" Saimu was slightly stunned. "You know about it?" Charlotte said. "I just came from innings 101. Their information came faster. However, they only show me a video. What information did you gather?" Saimu handed a file to Charlotte. "I have everything here. Take a look." Charlotte opened the file and took out everything inside. There were photos, hospital examination reports, investigation reports, and a USB flash drive in the file. The photos were also of towns and corpses. There were towns in Mexico, slums in India, and towns in Nigeria. There were no photos of the Forest of No Return or the Friendship Mining Company, but there were photos of towns in Nigeria. The photos were also of corpses and crazy people. The pictures were full of violence and blood. After looking at the photos, Charlotte looked at the reports written by the intelligence personnel. The content was the analysis and speculation made by the intelligence personnel based on what had happened. It was very unreliable. He also looked at the doctor's examination report that the intelligence personnel had obtained. There were examinations of the crazy people and autopsies of the corpses. The brains of the dead had one thing in common, which was atrophy and decay. Finally, Charlotte plugged the USB flash drive into his mobile phone and played the video file with the player on his mobile phone. The video showed a street with corpses lying on the street. There was garbage everywhere. It was like the street in Resident Evil, full of the smell of the end of the world. The person who shot the video walked on the street with a camera. As he walked, he described what he saw and how he felt. "God, I feel like I've come to the street of the end of the world. I can't see a living person. The air here is full of the smell of rotting corpses. I can't stand it. What happened here? God must know. Wait, what do you have? I'll go and have a look." The person who shot the video started to run, and the image in the video started to mix. A few seconds later, the camera suddenly caught a hyena. Hyenas were extremely ferocious beasts in the African animal world. Their combat power was no less than that of lions and tigers. The hyena that appeared in the video was an adult hyena with a huge body. It was squatting by the side of the road and eating the brain of a corpse. When the person who shot the video approached it, it suddenly raised its head. However, before it could pounce on new prey, the person who shot the video suddenly fell to the ground and never got up again. It gave people the feeling that he had suddenly died from a cerebral hemorrhage or a myocardial infarction. The hyena ran towards the person who shot the video, bit open his head, and then took out his brain. His brain had already shrunk and decayed, but the hyena seemed to like this kind of food the most. It swallowed it in one bite. This scene was captured by the camera that had fallen to the ground. The camera also captured the hyena's eyes. It was a pair of terrifying blood-red eyes. The hyena ate the brain of the person who shot the video and left. A lot of its fur had fallen off, revealing red flesh and blood. It looked especially disgusting. The video stilled and finally stopped. Charlotte's heart was filled with shock. He thought to himself, the person who shot the video wasn't attacked at all. Why did he suddenly die? And that hyena is fine? It ate the rotten brain, and its body seems to be sick. But why did it eat food that it knew would make it sick? He could not understand these questions. When he was in innings 101, he saw the corpse in the video. His first reaction was that Zhu Xuanyue's kind had already come to this world. However, from what he had seen just now, the person in the video had not been attacked at all. He had suddenly died, and the speed at which his brain had shrunk and decayed was especially fast. If Zhu Xuanyue and her kind had attacked him, they would have left some traces no matter what, but there was no trace. If it was not Zhu Xuanyue and her kind who did it, then what was the reason? This is too scary. Saimu's face was pale. My people couldn't contact him, so they took the risk and entered the town. In the end, they found his body in this video. That brother died not long after he came back. Someone cut open his head, and in the end, his head also shrunk and decayed. Damn, what kind of virus is this? The people in Dawn's office also thought that it was a virus. Under normal circumstances, they would think so. However, Charlotte had a hunch that it was not a virus at all. If there was, it could only be the hyena. It was not the main cause of this incident. Boss, what do you think it is? Qianjun's voice was heard. Charlotte was silent for a moment before saying, I'm afraid this matter has something to do with that woman. Zhu Xianhua? Qianjun's expression suddenly changed. Charlotte said, Yes, it's her. I've told you some things about her. You should also know how dangerous she is. In short, don't worry about anything related to her. Don't we even need to investigate? Giovanna said, We have brothers and sisters in India, Nigeria, and Mexico. We can get more information. Charlotte said, No, let the brothers and sisters of the Rescue Association protect themselves. Don't go to the area where the accident happened. In addition, if you see any sick beasts, shoot them immediately. Don't approach them. Shoot beasts? Stella's voice was a little puzzled. Why shoot sick beasts? Charlotte said, You just saw that video, right? Everyone nodded in agreement. Charlotte then said, Then you should remember that hyena. It specializes in eating the brains of the dead. As you can see, its fur is almost gone, revealing its flesh and blood. Under normal circumstances, it should be dead, but it is still alive. This is not normal at all. I suspect that it is infected with a virus. Don't let this infected animal get close to our people. I got it. I'll send the notice immediately. Giovanna went to the side to make a phone call. Boss, I can get you the corpse of an animal infected with the virus. You can study it. Once you study it, you will definitely make a lot of money. Siamus said. Charlotte flatly refused. Are you crazy? If you bring that infected animal to China and the virus spreads, it will be a disaster with the population density in China. I won't make that kind of money. Siamu closed his mouth. Developing a vaccine for the virus would indeed make a lot of money. Hundreds of billions of dollars wouldn't be a problem. But Charlotte didn't care about that kind of money at all. Then what do we do? Akiko Tsukino asked. Charlotte said, We don't need to do anything. We just do what we need to do. I'll build my plane, and you continue your vacation. The members of the Zodiac team and the 4 female knights looked at each other. They couldn't believe that this was Charlotte's decision. In the past, every time a crisis came, he always had a strategy to deal with it. But this time, he didn't do anything. Was this his style? It wasn't that Charlotte didn't do anything. He just didn't want the Zodiac team and Giovanna to take risks. He would have a strategy to deal with it, and he was the only one who could carry it out. The reason was very simple. This matter was definitely related to Zhu Xianhua. In the face of an enemy like her, what could the Zodiac team and Giovanna do? They weren't on the same level at all. He had to deal with it himself. No one could help him. Chapter 1200. The end of his life had yet to come, but the crisis had already arrived. Murphy's Law had once again come true for Charlotte. Things had progressed in the worst possible direction. In the backyard of Ping and Residence, Charlotte hesitated for a while before taking out the satellite phone given to him by Prehistoric only. He dialed the only number saved in his contact list. Do. No one picked up the phone even after 60 seconds. Damn it, he actually didn't pick up my call. Charlotte dialed the number again. This time, no one picked up the phone even after 60 seconds. The third time, the fourth time, Charlotte gave up. His heart was filled with anger and confusion. He must know the truth. He must have condoned Zhu Xuanyue's evil deeds. He didn't want to see me because he didn't want to tell me the truth. Wait, if it was Zhu Xuanyue's kind who came, he would definitely hide because he was no match for them. If it was because of this reason that he wanted to hide, before he hid, he should have come to see me once to remind me to be careful. Then, he would have asked me to fulfill the cooperation agreement between us or something. But he didn't even pick up my phone. What kind of situation is this? If Zhu Xuanyue's kind came, Prehistoric only would be in a very dangerous situation. His wisest choice was to cooperate with Charlotte and share his information with Charlotte. Therefore, he would pick up the phone and even come to see him. If that was not the case, then he should have also picked up Charlotte's phone because he had previously said that if there was any news about Zhu Xianhua, he should contact him and tell him. He couldn't understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. Charlotte returned to his study and took out his hacking computer. He didn't need Siamu and the Rescue Society's intelligence system to collect information for him. He also didn't need Tang Yuyin to share information on 101 innings with him, because he had his own channels to obtain information. And that was Super Xiaoqian. In the past 3 months, not only did he write all the software programs needed by Hades and Kuan Peng, he also finished writing Super Xiaoqian. Tonight, he was going to activate Super Xiaoqian. After waking up the hacker's computer, a beautiful woman's face appeared on the screen. This face was made from the faces of Fan Fan, Liang Xiao, Long Bing, Jiang Rui, Tang Yuyin, and Shinda Tianyin. He chose the most beautiful parts of the 6 women and artificially synthesized a face. The sight of that face reminded him of his 6 women and their children. The faces receded, and the woman on the screen revealed her body. It was a perfect figure with 9 heads. She was tall and well-proportioned, with firm and plump breasts, plump and plump buttocks, well-proportioned and strong long legs. Her overall curves were graceful and attractive, and she was very sexy. Her body was made from the bodies of Akiko Tsukino, Anina, Sylvia, and Shalami. Seeing her body also reminded him of the women he had that kind of relationship with. Why did he do this? These women were the best gifts he had received in his life. Each of them had a story, a beautiful memory. He wanted to remember all of their good things in this way. In the future, even if he was no longer in this world, she would continue to exist in the virtual world. She was Super Xiaoqian. Charlotte's fingers tapped on the keyboard, typing in one command after another. Finally, he hit the enter key. Super Xiaoqian opened her eyes. She looked at Charlotte, and a synthesized voice came from the speaker of the hacker's computer. Face recognition. Recognition complete. Master, what do you need? Charlotte said lightly. Enter the internet world. Execute command. Xiaoqian suddenly turned into countless light spots, shuttling through the blue world composed of zeros and ones, giving the feeling of a spaceship shuttling through a space-time tunnel. After a few seconds, the virtual tunnel formed by the blue zeros and ones disappeared, and Super Xiaoqian appeared on the screen again. She had a sweet smile on her face. Master, I have entered the internet world. It feels so strange, like I'm bathing in the ocean. Charlotte smiled. This sentence alone was enough to reflect Super Xiaoqian's attainments in artificial intelligence. She had feelings and emotions. Master, what are you smiling at? I'm telling the truth. Haven't you bathed in the ocean? Super Xiaoqian slightly pouted, looking very playful. Charlotte said, Of course I've bathed, but I haven't bathed in the internet world, so I'm not sure what it feels like. Although the internet world is a virtual world, aren't humans also sensory animals? A person's life is spent in all kinds of sensory stimuli and sensations. I also have such sensations, so there's no difference between the two. You're good at philosophy. Are you studying it? Yes, when I'm talking to you, I'm absorbing knowledge from the internet world. How's your learning speed? Charlotte asked. Super Xiaoqian said, 100 million bytes per second. Charlotte was shocked. With such a learning speed, she could almost grasp knowledge in a second that would take an ordinary person a lifetime to master. Master, do you want to test me? Charlotte shook his head. No need. After a pause, he said, Tell me about my stock returns in the American stock market. Entering the stock market version of Xiaoqian entering. Super Xiaoqian said, Master, can I take over it? Its intelligence level is very low, and it looks like a fool. If I take over it, work efficiency will be faster, and the operation of funds will be safer. Super Xiaoqian scolded the stock market version of Xiaoqian as a fool. This was clearly an act of bullying the weak, but this was the personality that Charlotte gave her, full of aggressiveness. Charlotte smiled bitterly. All right, if you think it's necessary, you can take over it. There's also the spy version of Xiaoqian. Can I take over it too? Super Xiaoqian seemed very greedy. No problem. Integrate them together, and you'll become stronger. Charlotte didn't object. The stronger Super Xiaoqian was, the more valuable it would be to him. I'm integrating them, Super Xiaoqian said with a smile. The blue background on the screen of the hacker's computer suddenly changed, and it turned into a restaurant. Super Xiaoqian, whose appearance and figure could be said to be perfect, was sitting at the table, enjoying a steak and a glass of red wine. On the steak, there were Chinese characters that said stock market version of Xiaoqian, and the words spy Xiaoqian also appeared in the red wine in the goblet. Charlotte couldn't help but smile bitterly again. Is there a need to do this? You don't like it? No, Charlotte said. The image on the hacker's computer screen changed again, and it turned into a battlefield. Super Xiaoqian turned into a female knight, holding a knight's spear and a coat of arms shield as she charged forward. Behind her, thousands of troops and horses moved with a loud bang. The hooves of the horses shook the earth, and their roars and shouts soared into the sky. On the opposite side, two female knights also rushed over with thousands of troops and horses. In the enemy's formation, the horses of the two leading female knights had the words stock market version of Xiaoqian and spy Xiaoqian on them. In the blink of an eye, the two sides were fighting. The war horses' necks were broken, and the infantry was trampled into meat paste by the war horses. Swords flashed, and corpses were everywhere. In the end, Super Xiaoqian killed stock market version of Xiaoqian and spy Xiaoqian. The whole process of the battle lasted about 5 minutes, and in these 5 minutes, Charlotte undoubtedly watched a super large-scale epic movie. Super Xiaoqian produced such a large-scale artificial synthetic movie almost in an instant. Her ability was enough to make the best film special effects company in the world go out of business. However, apart from being a little shocked, Charlotte actually didn't have much interest. After all, he was not a director, nor was he a producer. What he needed was her ability as a hacker, not these abilities. He said, "Are you done playing? Give me what I want." Super Xiaoqian said, "Master, you now have 5,389 stock accounts, and the total assets in all the accounts add up to $13.3 billion. So much? Charlotte was also surprised. In the past 3 months, he was busy studying Yama, Kuan-Peng, and Super Xiaoqian. He didn't pay attention to the stock market and Xiaoqian's operation in the stock market at all. He didn't expect that in these 3 months, Xiaoqian had turned his $3 billion into $13.3 billion. Stock market version of Xiaoqian is too weak. Super Xiaoqian showed a contemptuous smile. If it were me, Master, your assets would become $50 billion. Charlotte, the richest company in the world, was Apple, with a market value of $700 billion. However, Super Xiaoqian told him that she could earn $50 billion in 3 months, which meant that she could use the initial $3 billion to make an Apple in the U.S. stock market in 1 or 2 years. Because it wasn't a calculation problem of dividing 7,000 by 500 and then multiplying by 3. It was a snowball. The bigger the snowball, the greater the profit, and the shorter the time needed. Of course, the probability of being discovered will increase, but I have a way to avoid the risk. Super Xiaoqian said, "Master, according to my calculations, the longer the time, the safer it is. The shorter the time, the higher the risk. I need to know what your goal is. I mean, how much money do you want to make and how long?" Charlotte thought for a moment. 1.5 years, $1 billion. Can you do it? The amount is not a problem, but the probability of being discovered is very high. Master, are you sure you want to do this? Super Xiaoqian said, 1.5 years, $1 billion. That was enough to set off a storm in the U.S. stock market. 1.5 years was also the end of his life. Why would he care about the probability of being discovered? Since he wanted to go crazy, he would go crazy one last time before he left this world. Charlotte said almost without thinking, "Regardless of the probability of being discovered, I want you to make a bomb with the money you made from the U.S. stock market and detonate it when I need it." I understand. Hunting down America's capital and attacking America's economy is just a piece of cake. Super Xiaoqian was very confident. You have to be careful. There's a system like you in the U.S. It is called the God system. It will be your opponent. Charlotte said. Super Xiaoqian said, "I will defeat it. I am the queen of the internet. It is just an idiot." Charlotte smiled. "Don't touch it yet. First, collect information about the virus epidemic in Mexico, India, and Nigeria for me. I want to know what happened in these 3 countries and how the authorities are dealing with it. Yes, master. Super Xiaoqian gave Charlotte a classic lady's bow. The screen on the hacker's computer suddenly changed. A farmland appeared. Super Xiaoqian, with a white towel wrapped around her head, wearing a floral short-sleeved shirt and coarse shorts, was waving her hoe and digging potatoes. How is this Super Xiaoqian, the queen of the internet? She was simply a village girl from northern Shaanxi. Under the scorching sun, Super Xiaoqian's body was covered in sweat. Every time she waved her hoe, her perky buttocks and overly full breasts would sway and sway. It's so hot. Super Xiaoqian wiped her sweat. Master, why did you make my breasts so big? They become a burden when I work. Xiaolei's jaw hit the ground with a thud. Now, he didn't know what kind of demon he had created. Chapter 1201. Every time Super Xiaoqian dug a potato, a description would appear next to the field. The description was specific to a certain piece of information. For example, a description from the Nigerian Intelligence Department. The hellhound virus has spread, and there is no vaccine to prevent the spread of the virus. The support from the Americans is insignificant. According to reliable sources, the Americans have secret contacts with Boca Holy Land. On the surface, the Forest of No Return is controlled by the Boca Holy Land armed group, but the Americans are actually in control of the area. For example, a report from the Indian Epidemic Prevention Department. The hellhound virus first originated in Nigeria. According to the research of experts sent to Nigeria for support and research on the virus was produced from African hyenas. Once a person is infected with the virus, they will go crazy, similar to rabies. However, the current rabies vaccine cannot suppress the virus at all. The hellhound virus is also far more dangerous than rabies. At present, we have found 3,500 cases, and it is difficult to estimate the number of undiscovered cases. The slums with poor health conditions have become the hardest-hit areas. For example, a report from the Mexican Health Department. Since the outbreak of the hellhound virus, we have found 2,300 cases in our country. They have been forcibly quarantined, but there are still new cases. This virus is currently only spreading in Mexico, Nigeria, and the United States, which is next to our country, has not found a single case of hellhound virus. After digging for a while, Super Xiaoqian stopped. There was a large pile of potatoes in the field, and her floral shirt was also soaked with sweat. The white fabric with blue flowers had become transparent because of the sweat, and the content inside could be vaguely seen. The towering mountain was tall and straight, and the pink area on the top of the mountain was also vaguely revealed, stirring one's heart. Super Xiaoqian wiped the sweat off with the white towel on her head, then threw away the hoe. It's done. I'm exhausted. Charlotte looked at her, speechless. Why did you have to simulate all this? Super Xiaoqian said. You don't like it? Charlotte said with a hint of hypocrisy. I don't like it. Super Xiaoqian shrugged. That can't be helped. You created me, and you gave me this personality. My personality will affect my human behavior. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, should I tell her that her personality is actually based on the characteristics of my fan, Liang Xiao, Long Bing, Jiang Rui, Tang Yuyan, and Shinda Tianin? Forget it. She will probably get worse if I tell her. If I had known, I would have made her into a man. A man shouldn't be so troublesome, right? Even though he was thinking this, his expression was still serious as he said, All right, tell me the result. Super Xiaoqian said, I've collected relevant information from all over the world. I've also hacked into the relevant agencies and departments in Mexico, India, and Nigeria. Other than the United States, I haven't touched them. The virus has not spread to other countries and regions, Super Xiaoqian said. I have collected relevant information from all over the world. I have also invaded the relevant institutions and departments in Mexico, India, and Nigeria. Among the 3 countries, Nigeria has the highest number of infected and deaths. So far, 5,689 people have been infected and 4,174 have died. Next is India. 3,569 people have been infected and 2,385 have died. Finally, Mexico. 2,312 people have been infected and 1,183 have died. What else? All three countries have received funding from the United States. The United States has given them a certain amount of money and professionals to help with vaccine research. However, the Americans are not really helping. There are signs that they just want to buy time and put pressure on the three countries. The hellhound virus broke out a week ago, but no media has reported it. That's why the United States government is putting pressure on the Mexican, Nigerian, and Indian governments. Charlotte said, "It's impossible to reach the level of a complete blockade, right? Nowadays, mobile phones are very useful. A simple Twitter or Facebook message can be released. The United States government can put pressure on the governments of those three countries, but can they stop people from using mobile phones to send things?" Super Xiaoqian said, "It's true that they can't, but the internet is a product of the United States. The main server number A is also in Virginia, and the other 9 auxiliary servers are also in the United States. Only 3 auxiliary servers are in Britain, Japan, and Sweden, and these 3 countries are allies of the United States. The United States has full control of the internet. Now that God has entered the main server number A, its tentacles are everywhere. As long as there is relevant information, it will immediately turn into the kind of blushing pictures and infect people's mobile phones with viruses." When she said, "Those pictures that make people blush," Super Xiaoqian actually blushed a little, looking like a shy and cute virgin. If she was not a virtual being, but a real woman with flesh and soul, she would definitely be a seductive vixen. When Super Xiaoqian said this, the impossible became possible. The United States government put pressure on the Mexican government, the Indian government, and the Nigerian government to let the governments of the 3 countries control the paper media and the natural system control the internet, suppressing the news. Go on. I've seen all the research materials on the hellhound virus in the 3 countries, and some of their deductions about the sudden outbreak of this virus. Super Xiaoqian said, "Indians think that the Nigerians spread the virus to India, but some people in India oppose this view because the Nigerians mostly go to Turkey and Europe, but there are no cases of infection in those places. Why did it happen in India?" The Mexicans also said the same thing at the beginning, pointing the finger at the Nigerians, but for the same reason, this discriminatory speculation was eventually put aside. The Nigerians think that the outbreak of the hellhound virus was caused by drought and war, and the responsibility should be placed on the Boko Haram militants. Blaming each other and suspecting each other, this was the current situation in the 3 countries where the hellhound virus broke out. Behind these 3 countries, he had the great figure of the Americans. Charlotte was perplexed. The hellhound virus has only spread in India, Nigeria, and Mexico. There aren't any cases in other countries or regions. What's going on? Master, I haven't found the origin of the hellhound virus, and no organization has claimed to have developed a vaccine for it. There are many mysteries surrounding this matter, and I need more time to investigate. Please allow me to attack the American Intelligence Network and the related research institutes. Super Xiaoqian's eyes shone with excitement. She was already itching to fight against the heavenly god system. "Do you know what kind of opponent you're facing?" Super Xiaoqian said, "Of course I do. Its clones can be seen everywhere on the internet. It's constantly replicating itself and spreading like a virus through the entire internet. I found its clones in the computers of the residents in Whitestag. It wants to steal information about Rema Group. Rema Group wasn't connected to the internet and only had its own internal network. Even the god system couldn't hack into that network. That was why it planted clones in the computers of the residents near Whitestag to steal user data and even secretly take pictures of them. Naturally, it wouldn't be able to steal any of Rema Group's core secrets, but it would still be able to obtain some useful information through the conversations of the workers and residents. Master, I have even worse news for you." "What is it?" "The god system has planted clones in the phones of some of Rema Group's employees. Some of Rema Group's secrets have already been leaked. Xiaolei's expression changed instantly, and his heart was burning with anger. The Americans had used the convenience of having their servers in America to plant God in them. That was basically turning the internet into a mining ground where they could beat up whoever they wanted and take whatever they wanted. Master, make a decision. Super Xiaoqian said, we can't wait any longer. If we wait any longer, we'll suffer even greater losses. Charlotte said, then do it. First, get rid of the God System's clones around Rema Group. Most importantly, get rid of the clones in the phones of the employees. After that, you can fight it however you want, regardless of the consequences. Yes, my king. Super Xiaoqian suddenly stood at attention and saluted Charlotte. The image on the hacker's laptop suddenly changed. The next time Super Xiaoqian appeared, she was wearing a military uniform and holding a baton. Her figure was accentuated by the uniform. She had a voluptuous figure and a voluptuous, but making her look very sexy. Her expression, however, was cold and stern. She no longer looked like a sweet woman and had turned into an iron-blooded general. Behind her was a replica of her. There were rows and rows of clones. There was no end to them, and it was impossible to count how many of them there were. Their bodies were the same as her, and their appearances were the same. The only difference was that they were holding Gale assault rifles in their hands. The identical Gale assault rifles formed a sea of black, and their large breasts and perky butts formed a strong contrast between steel and flesh, blood and tenderness. Super Xiaoqian turned around and waved the baton. She shouted, "Beautiful girl warriors! For our king, for our glory, charge!" The army of countless beautiful girls moved out with a loud bang. Their military boots stomped on the ground, making loud rumbling sounds. The sound shook the ground and shook the nerves of the people. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Why did they have to make such a big scene? Wouldn't it be better to just disappear in a flash? Super Xiaoqian and her super beautiful girl army disappeared, and the screen of the hacker's computer went black. However, just when Charlotte thought it was over and was about to close the monitor, a paragraph of Chinese characters suddenly appeared on the screen. Master, today is Xiaoqian's first birthday. Can you sing a birthday song for me? Charlotte, Super Xiaoqian. All right, I'll take it that you've sung it. Good night. Happy birthday. Charlotte said. A picture of the smiling faces of the audience appeared on the screen. Chapter 1202. Super Xiaoqian easily cleared the infiltrating clones of the Kami system around Rema Group, including the phones of some employees. After purifying Rema Group and the surrounding environment, Super Xiaoqian began to expand the battlefield, attacking the infiltrating clones of the Kami system throughout China. The internet in China was her forbidden land. How could she tolerate the infiltration of the Kami system? However, even if she was fighting in the internet world, Super Xiaoqian did not forget the task given to her by Charlotte, which was to make money in the U.S. stock market and continue to investigate the Hellhound virus. The war between Super Xiaoqian and the Kami system began on the internet world, and it would not be a short battle. However, as far as the creators of both sides were concerned, the battle that had just begun seemed to have been decided. Half a month later, New Delhi, India. A barefoot monk walked along the road next to the Ganges River. He looked very young, bald, and had fair skin. The monk's robe on his body was tattered. As far as his skin was concerned, he belonged to the Brahmin with the highest status in the Indian caste system, which was a privileged class. The turbid waves of the Ganges River surged, and garbage and bubbles tumbled in the river, bobbing up and down, just like all living beings in India. The young monk walked very slowly, turning the prayer beads in his hand as he walked, chanting something, looking very pious. Those who did not know would think that the young monk was chanting scriptures, but in reality, the young monk was talking to a special existence. This special existence was Super Xiaoqian. This young monk was Charlotte, who had smuggled himself from China. Charlotte came to India to investigate the Hellhound virus, and there were some problems that he had to figure out. This time, he did not bring the Zodiac Squad, nor did he bring the 4 female knights. In fact, The members of the Zodiac Squad and the 4 female knights did not even know where he went. Of course, this also included the 5 female owners of the Peace House. His operation this time was completely secret and no one knew, except for Super Xiaoqian, who was not human. There was only one reason why he did not bring the Zodiac Squad and the 4 female knights, because the opponent was Zhu Xianwei. They could not do anything even if they came. If there was a battle, they would only die in vain. However, Super Xiaoqian was different. Not only could she act as Charlotte's assistant, but she also did not have to worry about being killed by Zhu Xianwei. She hid in the internet, and Zhu Xianwei could not find her even if he wanted to kill her. As long as there was internet coverage, she would be there, and she was currently talking to Xia Lei through the multifunction watch on his wrist. Master, the slums in front have been sealed off by the Indian military. There are 1,022 soldiers, 5 Acon tanks, and 15 armored vehicles in this area. Xia Lei said, "Give me a detailed map. I need a comprehensive understanding of this area." Then, a map that was stolen from somewhere appeared on the multifunction watch. When Super Xiaoqian Charlotte made the request, she had even marked the blockade line with a red line, as well as the distribution of the Acon tanks and armored vehicles. Super Xiaoqian's voice was still sweet and pleasant. "Master, this area has been completely blocked. The army here used detection equipment supported by the United States, and it will trigger the alarm as soon as it gets close. Another 10 meters, and you will enter the signal-blocked area, where I can't get in touch with you." Charlotte stopped and pretended to walk to the Ganges River to wash his hands. Just then, a swollen body floated in front of him. He suddenly felt disgusted, and his hand could no longer reach down. The Ganges River in India should be the dirtiest of all the famous rivers in the world, but it gave birth to the Indian civilization and was sacred in the hearts of all Indians. Of course, other than the fake Charlotte, there was also the super fake Xiaoqian. "You scare me to death." Super Xiaoqian's voice came from the intelligent wristwatch. Just now, my heart was about to jump out of my chest. "Master, can you comfort me?" Charlotte could not help but laugh bitterly. "Where's your heart? How do I comfort you? You're so annoying. I'm ignoring you." Super Xiaoqian was unhappy. "Okay, let's get to work. Monitor the situation outside. I'm going to enter the slums to take a look. If necessary, you're responsible for destroying the signal-blocking equipment and contact me in time," Charlotte said, then got up and left the Ganges River, returning to the road leading to the slums. Super Xiaoqian said, "Master, it's completely blocked. You can't get in at all." Charlotte said, "India is a different country. The monks have a lot of power. I'm a monk with the highest caste. I thought that even the soldiers wouldn't stop me if I went in with the excuse of praying and expiating the dead." Super Xiaoqian said, "Looks like I need to learn more about history and religion." Super Xiaoqian had the ability to learn quickly, but some things could not be understood by absorbing a lot of knowledge. Human nature was very complicated, and countries and societies made up of people had the same complexity. India, in particular, was known as the most populous democratic country in the world, but it also had a caste system. 10 meters ahead, the signal was lost, and Super Xiaoqian disappeared. Charlotte did not stop and continued to walk toward the slums. A few soldiers who blocked the road stopped him, but they were very polite and advised him to leave. Charlotte confidently told them that he wanted to enter the slums and India to pray for expiating the dead. Whoever stopped him would offend the gods and be punished by the gods. Such an excuse was really useful. The Indian soldiers didn't even check his identity and let him in. Charlotte could actually control their thoughts and directly enter the slums. But that method was not as good as this one. Behind him, a few Indian soldiers whispered, "It's really great. This master just entered the virus area like this. It's like he's going to hell himself. He must be an enlightened monk." Alas, someone sighed. "Can he come out after he goes in?" "According to the rules, he can't come out, but if he's still alive and wants to pass through here, I'll definitely let him go. I don't want to offend the gods and be blamed by the gods." While the soldiers were talking, Charlotte gradually walked away and entered a small alley in the slums. On both sides of the alley were low and shabby shacks. Plastic bags, foam, and other garbage could be seen everywhere on the side of the road. Several corpses lay on the side of the road. They were highly decomposed and emitted a strong stench. A swarm of flies buzzed around the corpses, feeding and ovulating. There were also corpses in the shacks, and the situation was the same. There was no living person here, and there were no animals like dogs or cats. The place was quiet, dead silent. It was not an exaggeration to describe this place as hell. Charlotte awakened the ability of his eyes and began to scan the corpses. He soon found that the brains of the corpses were all shrunken and rotten. In terms of the characteristics of the corpses, they looked like they had been preyed on by Zhu Xinyue. These corpses are the same as the ones I've seen before that were preyed on by Zhu Xinyue. If it's not Zhu Xinyue and her kind, then what attacked them? Hellhound virus? Charlotte couldn't figure it out. He was eager to know the truth about the hellhound virus. Walking out of the alley, a larger area of shacks came into his sight. His ears suddenly caught a bit of sound, and he looked towards the source of the sound. In a low shack, he saw a few men and a girl. Those men really did things that were worse than animals to the girl. Charlotte suddenly moved and rushed over as fast as he could. "Please, don't. The girl cried in pain. "Dad, tell them to stop. Uncle, you're hurting me. You'll go to hell." Although the girl cried, begged, and even cursed, the Indian men were indifferent. Some of them grabbed the girl's hands, and some grabbed the girl's feet, helping a dark-skinned and dirty man to rape the girl. The violent Indian man slammed into the wall twice before coming to a stop. An old Indian man next to him couldn't wait to pull him away, and then jumped on the girl. "Dad, you can't." At that moment, the girl's world completely collapsed. After a sad howl, she roared like crazy. Her father covered her mouth and continued to do things that were worse than animals. "Ha ha!" The girl's father laughed while doing it. "Anyway, I'm going to die here, so just let me die happily." Bang! Suddenly, the door was kicked open by someone. A few of the Indian men looked over in horror. They saw a young monk. A second later, several Indian men suddenly jumped on Charlotte. In their eyes, there was no religious belief left. As long as they saw a threat, they would take the initiative to attack. A young Indian man had a knife in his hand, and he was the one who rushed to the front. "Brother, no!" Although the Indian girl's mouth was covered, she still shouted with a muffled voice. These men and the girl were actually a family. The young Indian man didn't listen at all. He held the knife and stabbed it at Charlotte's heart. Xiaolei reached out, grabbed his wrist, and slammed it into his chest. Poochie! The sharp knife stabbed into the Indian young man's chest, and blood splattered. Charlotte grabbed the hilt of the knife and kicked the Indian young man away. The Indian young man's body flew out, and he hit the wall of the shack. A human-shaped hole suddenly appeared in the wall. At that moment, the knife in Charlotte's hand stabbed into the heart of another Indian man. Poochie, one knife for one. How could these Indian men be a match for Charlotte? Facing this monk who suddenly barged in, they were like fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. In a few seconds, only the girl's father was left out of the violent Indian men. Even at this time, the guy was still reluctant to get off his daughter and continued to do things that were worse than animals. His eyes flickered with excitement, and there was a faint trace of blood red in them, which was not normal. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat, and he put down the knife that he had raised. He grabbed the girl's father's collar, pulled him away, and threw him to the ground. Charlotte didn't kill him because he looked like he was infected with the so-called Cerberus virus. He was a living sample. Ow! Roar! The girl's father let out a beast-like roar. His hands suddenly hugged Charlotte's feet, and he opened his mouth to bite Charlotte's calf. Chapter 1203. Charlotte raised his foot and kicked the girl's father in the face. The girl's father's head hit the ground heavily, but he didn't faint at all. Instead, he pounced forward again, opening his mouth to bite his calf. Charlotte raised his foot again, but this time he didn't kick the girl's father in the face. Instead, he stepped on his neck, imprisoning him firmly to the ground. Roar! Roar! The girl's father let out a beast-like roar. Charlotte's eyes twitched slightly as he instantly activated his X-ray vision and scanning mode. His gaze instantly entered the girl's father's brain, and what he saw gave him a fright. A normal brain was white, but the girl's father's brain was orange-red, like an orange that hadn't fully matured yet. "Let go of my father." The girl got up and used her torn clothes to cover her embarrassing parts. She looked at Charlotte with a pleading gaze, but she didn't dare approach him. Charlotte also said in Hindi, "He's no longer your father. Can a father do something like that to you?" The girl bit her lip. She looked at her father, who was being stepped on by Charlotte, and didn't say another word. The young monk in front of her had saved her. Given what had just happened, she would rather believe this monk than her father. Charlotte released a mysterious energy field that instantly invaded the girl's father's brain and captured his brain. All the thoughts, brain waves, pathological changes, and so on in the girl's father's brain appeared in Charlotte's brain, and he was read one by one. The girl's father only had one thought: eat. Other than this thought, the girl's father had no other thoughts or consciousness. The girl's father's brain was in a state of inflammation and fever. It gave Charlotte the feeling that it was like a bottle of jam placed in an oven, ready to explode at any moment. This is the hellhound virus? Charlotte thought to himself. People infected by this virus won't even let their own daughter off. They definitely don't have any humanity left. They might even be worse than animals. There's only the thought of eating in his mind. There's no fear. Even if it's a target that's who knows how many times stronger than him, he still wants to pounce and attack it. Xiaolei suddenly remembered the zombies in The Walking Dead and Resident Evil that he had watched before. The difference was that the zombies in the movie were fictional, but this Indian man was real. The hellhound virus was also real. Now it seemed that the person who named the virus had given it some thought. Hellhounds were the watchdogs of hell, feeding on corpses to survive. The only thought in the girl's father's mind was to eat, which was similar to the hellhounds. Charlotte activated his microvision ability and began to observe the brain cells of the girl's father. He was shocked to find that the brain cells of the girl's father were working at least 10 times faster than those of a normal person. While consuming a large amount of energy, it also increased the speed of his metabolism. Brain cells were constantly dying, and new ones were constantly being born. It gave people the feeling that his body was stimulating its potential, or even mutating. According to the law of conservation of energy, the energy consumed would be the product of energy conversion. So, the brain of the girl's father was consuming the energy stored in his body. What did he get? The girl's father suddenly screamed crazily, and his hands suddenly grabbed Charlotte's calf. At that moment, Charlotte felt as if his calf was clamped by a pair of iron pincers, and a burning pain came from his muscles. This situation startled him because suddenly, the girl's father seemed to have become a super scion, possessing terrifying strength and a more agile reaction. The girl's father's hands pulled hard, trying to push Charlotte away from his body. His goal was achieved, but it was not because he suddenly became stronger and used his strength to solve the problem, but because Charlotte took the initiative to jump away when he was doing so. What would a person who was infected by the hellhound virus look like when he went completely crazy? This was the question that Charlotte wanted to figure out. The girl's father got up from the ground, but he did not stand upright like a normal person. Instead, he used his hands to support himself on the ground, like a dog standing on the ground. The girl's father's legs and hands supported himself on the ground, and his body suddenly jumped up from the ground and pounced toward Charlotte. The girl's father's strength, speed, and dexterity had all greatly improved after the mutation. He was not a thin and weak old Indian man at all, but more like a ferocious hyena. In the blink of an eye, the girl's father pounced in front of him. He opened his mouth, but it was not a normal opening but a tearing sound. The corners of his mouth were torn open by a powerful force, revealing blood-colored masseter muscles. The bones of his lower and upper jaw were also pulled to an extent that could not be achieved under normal circumstances. It was big enough to bite off half a football. In his mouth, all the cell tissues had mutated, and they were full of blood-colored lumps. They were densely packed, disgusting and terrifying. Charlotte dodged. The girl's father pounced on empty air, but he did not give up. After landing, he turned around and pounced again. Charlotte raised a knife in his hand, and in the process of dodging, he stabbed the knife into the girl's father's heart. Blood sprayed out, as if he had stepped on a blood bag and burst it. It was obvious that his heart was beating at least 10 times faster than normal. Otherwise, such a scene of blood spurting would not have appeared. The girl's father lay on the ground and did not get up again. Charlotte's gaze penetrated the girl's father's back and saw his heart. The girl's father's heart had already stopped beating, and there was only a slight tremor. Such a tremor could not complete the work of blood transfusion. This discovery made Charlotte breathe a sigh of relief. Because if it was a zombie in a movie, the girl's father would definitely not die, unless his head was pierced with a knife. Reality was reality. After all, not a movie. Charlotte thought to himself, first, he lost his humanity, and then he went crazy, attacking a target that was stronger than him. It was most suitable for him to go completely crazy, and his body was somewhat like a dog's. This should be the characteristics of the Cerberus virus. These characteristics were described in the medical reports that Super Shouchian hacked, but it was far from being as real and comprehensive as seeing it with his own eyes. After understanding the characteristics of the Cerberus virus, Charlotte's heart was also filled with lingering fear. If this virus spread to China, with China's population density, it would be the end of the world. Daddy! Daddy sob sob. The girl did not care to cover her embarrassing parts, and threw herself on her father's body, sad and desperate. She was a kind girl. Her father did those things that were worse than animals to her, but she obviously did not blame her father. At this moment, her feelings for her father were real, and the tears that flowed out of her eyes were a proof. Charlotte put his hand on the girl's shoulder. He's already dead. Don't be sad, and leave with me. The girl seemed to not hear Charlotte's voice, and she cried on her father's body. Some of the blood that flowed out of her father's body flowed to her lower abdomen, and then flowed down her lower abdomen. Charlotte suddenly realized something and pulled her away. The girl looked at Charlotte blankly. Are you going to do that to me too? This sentence made Charlotte's heart ache. Don't misunderstand. I won't hurt you. I just want to protect you. The virus can be transmitted through blood, and your body is stained with your father's blood. Aren't you afraid of being infected with that terrible virus? They left something even dirtier in my body. What's the difference? The girl's face was expressionless, and her eyes were frighteningly empty. This place has become hell. I have no hope. Charlotte suddenly caught a trace of blood-red light from her eyes, like a flash of infrared. This change quickly disappeared, and her eyes still looked normal, with some black and some white, but the look in her eyes was very empty. This was the look of despair. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, that trace of blood is real, not my illusion. Is it also a characteristic of the Cerberus virus? She has also been infected with the Cerberus virus? If this girl had been infected with the Cerberus virus, Charlotte would not be surprised at all, because those men had indeed left a reproductive fluid in her body. If the Cerberus virus could be transmitted through that, she would have already been infected. Are you okay? Charlotte asked tentatively, and at the same time, he reached out to pull out the sharp knife from the girl's father's body. The girl did not speak, and she just looked at Charlotte with empty eyes. Charlotte took out a box from his backpack, and then he took out a test tube from a box. He scraped the blood and muscle tissue from the knife into the test tube, and then he stuffed a cork. To study the Cerberus virus, he had to take a sample. However, he would not bring the sample back to the country for research. He would find a laboratory in India and study it on the spot. This was his purpose in coming to India. After taking the sample, he put the test tube and the box into his backpack, and Charlotte's gaze moved to the girl again. At that moment, he once again saw the flash of blood in the girl's eyes. Tell me, do you feel uncomfortable now? Charlotte asked. I'm very hot. The girl scratched her chest with her hand. Her chest had not fully developed, and it was only slightly bulging. It looked very young, and it even looked a little malnourished. Her fingernails scratched across her delicate breasts, and a few bloody scratches appeared on them. Charlotte reached out and grabbed her hand. Don't do this. Don't hurt yourself. It's so hot in my head. The girl shook her head vigorously, looking like she was in great pain. Charlotte's gaze instantly penetrated the girl's brain. The girl's brain had already started to turn orange, and that orange color was like the body of the virus, and it was spreading rapidly. If the girl's brain was compared to a piece of toilet paper, then the orange thing was like water dripping on the toilet paper, and the speed at which it spread was unbelievable. In the natural world, there was no virus that could spread at such a speed. Charlotte's gaze then moved to the girl's chest, and he saw through her heart. Her heart was beating rapidly, and it was at least 500 beats per minute. Ah! The girl suddenly went crazy, and she opened her mouth to bite Charlotte's wrist. Charlotte sighed in his heart. He raised the knife in his hand and stabbed it into the girl's head. The girl fell to the ground, and blood and brain tissue flowed out after Charlotte pulled out the knife. Her brain tissue was no longer normal brain tissue, but an orange paste that looked like watermelon paste. Charlotte looked at the girl and left the hut. He did not want to stay there for another second. The sun shone on his body, but Charlotte did not feel the slightest bit of warmth. The air was filled with the stench of corpses and blood. This place was really hell. Chapter 1204. Walking alone in the slums, there were rotting corpses everywhere, both human and animal. The air was filled with a disgusting rotting smell. Flies and rats were probably the only living things in this area. They fed on corpses, and this hellish place had become their paradise. Woof, woof, woof. A blood-colored dog with all its fur gone suddenly rushed out of a shack and pounced at Charlotte. Puff! The pistol in Charlotte's hand with a silencer trembled slightly, and a bullet plunged into the head of the dog. The dog's head exploded, and blood and orange brain tissue burst out. It still felt like melted watermelon sauce. This was already the center of the slums. Along the way, Charlotte had killed dozens of people infected with the Cerberus virus, as well as animals such as dogs and cats. There was even a goose infected with the Cerberus virus, that also pounced at Charlotte crazily. Although that battle was settled in a very easy way, with one stomp to death, the scene left an absurd and terrifying impression on Charlotte. The attack of dogs, cats, and even geese made Charlotte understand one thing, and that was that the Cerberus virus was not only effective on mammals, but also on birds. Once such a virus that covered almost all species broke out on a global scale, would there still be a future for humans? A young man suddenly barged into Charlotte's sight from behind a wall. "Save me! Save me!" The young man shouted in horror and ran toward Charlotte. Charlotte's ears moved slightly. He heard the patter of footsteps. It was the sound of someone running in slippers. His line of sight bypassed the young man and fell on the corner. At that moment, a group of Indians rushed out from the corner. Some were running upright, while others were using their hands and feet to run on the ground. "Save me! Save me!" The people who were running upright cried for help, looking panicked. They wished they could grow legs and leave this hellish place in a second. An old man slipped on his slippers and fell to the ground. A group of people infected with the hellhound virus pounced forward like mad dogs, opening their mouths and biting. People infected with the hellhound virus appeared, and they quickly chased after them. "Run!" The youth who was the first to reach Charlotte shouted at Charlotte. Charlotte did not move. He also did not make a move to save the old Indian man, because he knew very well that even if he did, it would be useless. Those who were infected with the hellhound virus bit the old Indian man, so the hellhound virus was also in his body. With the infection and splitting speed of the hellhound virus, he would become a hellhound in less than a cigarette's time. More and more people ran past them. No one cared about Charlotte, even if he was a monk. In the face of the threat of death, faith was sometimes very fragile. A large group of infected hellhounds rushed over on all fours. They gave up running upright and used their hands and feet to run faster than real dogs. It was obvious that their bodies were madly burning with energy, giving them great strength and also making them more agile. Charlotte finally moved. He rushed to an electric pole on the side of the road. When he was one step away from the electric pole, he suddenly jumped up and stepped on the electric pole with his right foot. His body jumped up again and landed on the roof of the shack. The entire roof shook and almost collapsed. A large group of human-shaped hellhounds rushed over from the foot of the electric pole and caught up with the group of people who were running for their lives in the blink of an eye. Screams suddenly rang out, shattering the dead silence of this place. Blood and wounds, torn open by teeth, as well as bones and flesh chewed by bloody mouths. All of this happened right in front of Xiaolei's eyes. Should he save those innocent Indians? Maybe he should, but he would not do that. He was never a savior, and he couldn't save everyone here. His purpose was only to investigate the Hellhound virus, understand it, and find the source of the Hellhound virus. That was all. He had to protect his wife and children, his family and friends, and the millions of people in China. A child was torn apart and eaten alive. His internal organs, limbs, and brain tissue were like sandwiches dipped in jam in front of the bloody mouths of the humanoid Cerberus. They were so fragile that they were easily bitten apart, torn apart, and swallowed. Charlotte's stomach churned when he saw this, and he almost threw up the energy bar he had eaten earlier. If he had eaten ordinary food, and a lot of it, he might really not be able to resist the nausea and vomit into a mess. The screams of despair soon stopped. Some people were eaten alive, while those who were not seriously injured became their own kind after being infected by the Hellhound virus. The attacks against them also stopped. They also began to gnaw on the dead. What was even stranger was that as they ate, the wounds on their bodies quickly healed, turning into bloody scars. This was another new discovery. People infected with the Hellhound virus would not attack their own kind, and as they ate, the wounds on their bodies would quickly heal. It seemed hard to believe, but it was understandable after careful consideration. The heartbeat of people infected with the Hellhound virus was 10 times that of an ordinary person. Their brain activity was also 10 times that of an ordinary person. Even the metabolism of their cells was the same. Under such a state, the human organs and the ability produced by the organs would naturally be 10 times that of an ordinary person. It was not surprising that the wounds would quickly scab. A few minutes later, everything that was eaten. Dozens of human-shaped hellhounds gathered under the shack that Charlotte had taken shelter in, and each of them stared at him with bloodshot eyes. He knew very well that he had become a delicious food in the eyes of this group of people infected with the Hellhound virus, and they were very hungry. Charlotte pulled out the Viper pistol from his waist, removed the magazine, and glanced at it. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He still had 5 bullets, and they were the last 5 bullets. Along the way, he had used up a lot of ammunition. This was actually the reason why he did not make a move earlier. He was out of ammunition. Use a knife? Facing a large group of human-shaped hellhounds that were crazier than rabid dogs and faster than cheetahs, that would be a very stupid choice. At this time, Charlotte somewhat missed a Kiko Tsukino. If she was here, her alloy samurai sword with X-Mystic Gold added would be of great use here. More and more human-shaped hellhounds gathered under the eaves of the shack, and each of them stared at Charlotte on the roof with their bloodshot eyes. Some of them growled, and some of them looked at him with drool. Charlotte carefully climbed to the highest point of the shack, and then moved to the other side. Across the alley was another shack. He only had one way left, and that was to leave from the roof. However, he had to be careful because the shacks in the slums were very simple and had no quality to speak of. If he were to accidentally step through the roof and fall, even he did not want to imagine what the result would be. Coming to the other side of the hut, Xiaolei leaped from this hut to the top of a pillar in another hut. Also, he had the ability to see through things so he could see the pillar. Otherwise, if he jumped onto the plastic sheets and fragile wooden boards, he would fall off the roof in the next second. As Charlotte moved, a large group of human-shaped hellhounds moved with him, unwilling to give up. When Charlotte moved to the 3rd roof, a strange roar suddenly came from the side. He climbed to the roof and looked in that direction. A van was speeding towards the blockade line with a large group of poor people running behind it. Behind the group of poor people was a large group of infected people infected with the hellhound virus. They roared as they ran, calling for their own kind to intercept. The van was soon blocked by a building, which also blocked Charlotte's line of sight. And Charlotte could not see through hundreds of shacks. The roar came again. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Is this roar the language of the infected? Before he could figure it out, the infected that surrounded him suddenly gave up on him and rushed in that direction. Charlotte climbed up a pole and stood at the highest point of the pole, avoiding all the obstacles that blocked his line of sight. Soon, he found the van again. The people in the van were fine, but the people who ran with the van had been caught by the infected. The human tragedy played out again. Some people were eaten alive, and some were infected. The poor people who ran after the van used their own lives to buy time for their companions to survive. Just as the large group of infected people helped to enjoy the food, the van had approached the checkpoint set up by the Indian military. Bang, bang, bang. One of the armored vehicles suddenly opened fire. The machine gun spewed out flames, and the machine gun bullets whistled into the van. Bullets flew, and inside the van, human arms, skulls, internal organs, and blood also flew. It was a mess. Those poor people were not eaten by the infected, but were killed by the Indian military. This was the reality of the world, extremely cruel. In order to prevent the spread of the virus, the huge slum had been completely blocked by the Indian government. Anyone who wanted to go out would be shot, and the soldiers who carried out this order would not care whether those poor people were infected with the hellhound virus or not. Once they entered the range, they would immediately shoot them. There was a ball of anger burning in Charlotte's heart, but it was just anger. He would not seek justice for those innocent Indian poor people just because they were shot. Beep beep. The multifunction watch on his wrist suddenly rang twice, and then a clear female voice came from the multifunction watch. Master, I'm back. I hacked their signal blocking device, and it will take them 15 seconds to repair it. Charlotte said, What's the situation around? I really want to tell you. Super Xiaoqian's face appeared on the screen of the multifunction watch. The Indian military has launched 4 BrahMos missiles here, and the warheads are fuel explosive warheads. So, let's run away quickly. F*CK. Charlotte jumped down from the pole and ran in the direction he came from. Fuel explosive bombs, also known as air combustion bombs. The warhead was not loaded with explosives, but fuel. It could burn up oxygen in an instant. Even people who were not injured by the explosion would suffocate to death. Chapter 1205. A BrahMos missile fell from the sky with a dazzling fiery tail. Faster than the speed of sound, the 300-kilogram warhead, the BrahMos missile, which was jointly developed by Russia and India, smashed into the center of the slums. Boom! The earth trembled, and flames rose into the sky. The simple shacks turned into ashes under the impact of the explosion and the fuel. The large area of shacks was razed to the ground in the blink of an eye. At that moment, the living people, infected people, corpses, flies, cats, and dogs, everything was burned to ashes. While running, Charlotte couldn't help but look back. A wave of heat suddenly swept over his face, burning his skin and causing a burning pain. Another 3 BrahMos missiles descended from the sky and hit different parts of the ghetto. An even more violent explosion, an even more intense tremor, and an even more terrifying heat wave. Xiaolei lunged forward and plunged headfirst into a drainage ditch. The stinky sewage submerged his body, along with the mud. An earth-shattering heat wave whizzed past his back. Everything was pushed down and burned, including the air. Within the entire explosion range, there was only one living thing, and that was Charlotte. He didn't need air. 5 minutes later, the heat wave subsided. Charlotte climbed out of the drainage ditch and looked at the ruins of the slums after the explosion. In his field of vision, there was not a single house left standing in the slums that used to be full of houses. His field of vision was full of broken walls and burnt corpses. Could the hellhound virus be eliminated in this way? No one knew. But the Indian government still did it. In this democratic country with a strict racial system, the poor people living in the slums were like pigs or dogs in the slaughterhouse. No one cared about them, and they would soon be forgotten. Whether it was in the past or present, or even in the future, their rights were not guaranteed. For some reason, Charlotte's heart was heavy, as if there was a piece of lead hanging on it. Pitter-patter-patter. A strange sound came from the multifunction watch, and Charlotte's thoughts were also pulled back. The multifunction wristwatch was covered in mud, and it was impossible to see what was on the display screen. Charlotte didn't use his X-ray vision. He used a finger to wipe away the mud on the multifunction watch's screen. On the screen of the multifunction watch, Super Xiaoqian was bathing under a showerhead. Her snow-white and plump breasts trembled under the washing of the bathwater, like two naughty white rabbits. Her jade-like buttocks also rippled beautifully. This scene immediately stunned Charlotte. Super Xiaoqian covered her chest and tightened her legs. She looked very scared and shy. "Master, what are you doing? How could you peep at people bathing?" Charlotte, the multifunction watch's screen returned to normal. The showerhead disappeared, and Super Xiaoqian also had clothes on her body. It was a set of military green military uniform that wrapped her body tightly. Charlotte finally came back to his senses. He smiled bitterly and said, "Why were you bathing in my wristwatch?" Super Xiaoqian looked wronged. "Didn't I fall into the gutter just now? My body was so dirty, of course I had to bathe." Faced with such a reason, Charlotte was speechless. An Acon tank entered Charlotte's thread. Behind the Acon tank was a large group of Indian Special Forces soldiers. They wore gas masks on their heads, protective clothing, rifles, and flamethrowers. These Indian soldiers were obviously going to clear the area. Although Charlotte was disguised as an Indian monk, he didn't dare to be discovered by these people. He squatted down again and then slowly moved forward. The exit of the gutter was at the Ganges River. Charlotte had already decided that when he reached the Ganges River, he would take a bath in the Ganges River. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Night came quietly, New Delhi was brightly lit, and it was a bustling scene. The tragedy that happened during the day did not affect the city at all. The rich people entered the opera house to enjoy the elegant opera art, or entered the high-end Western restaurants to enjoy the food cooked by the top chefs, and told them to add a little curry to the steak and dessert. New Delhi's Xinxiang Hotel. In a luxurious presidential suite, Charlotte lay on the sofa and watched a TV program. The TV on the wall was playing a real-time news program. The female host with a little red dot on her forehead stood on a piece of scorched land, and behind her was the bombed slum. A fire broke out in a slum in the western suburbs of New Delhi. The specific cause of the fire is still under investigation. However, the police have found fragments of explosive devices in the ruins, as well as traces of a large amount of gunpowder. The New Delhi police said that the fire was suspected to have traces of terrorist involvement, but so far, no terrorists have claimed responsibility for the incident. This was politics. Sometimes it made people feel sick and angry. Super Xiaoqian's voice suddenly came from the hacker's laptop on the coffee table. "Master, I have found a suitable laboratory for you." Charlotte looked at the monitor of the hacker's computer. He saw Super Xiaoqian in a military uniform and a picture of the University of New Delhi. He was slightly stunned. "Is the place you are looking for the laboratory of the University of New Delhi?" Super Xiaoqian said, "Yes, the security level of that place is the lowest. We can sneak in almost without doing anything. In addition, the biological laboratory of the University of New Delhi has very advanced equipment that can meet your needs in this area, bringing very dangerous samples into the school for experiments." "No, I don't like to do that. Is there another laboratory?" Charlotte said, "The pharmaceutical industry in India is very developed. I don't believe that I can't find a suitable laboratory." Super Xiaoqian said, "Of course there is. I have already prepared a backup option for you. Green Algae Biotechnology is a new Indian pharmaceutical company with investment and technical support from American capital. Their laboratory should be the most advanced laboratory in the whole of India. However, their security is also the tightest. Under normal circumstances, it is almost impossible to sneak in. Charlotte thought for a moment. Then green algae biotechnology. Let's go there. As for their security system, I don't believe that their security system can make it difficult for you. Well, Super Xiaoqian showed a lovely smile. In fact, I just took over their security system. Charlotte glared at her. Then why do you say it is very tight? Very high level? I just want you to think that it is very hard for me to do this kind of thing. Charlotte, she was so naughty. Who could she blame? If she wanted to blame someone, she could only blame the person who created her, Charlotte. An hour later, a bald young man came to an industrial development zone in New Delhi. The largest and most luxurious building in this industrial development zone was the multi-purpose building of green algae biotechnology. It looked like the Dubai Grand Hotel, just a lot shorter and smaller. 4 armed guards stood in front of the gate of green algae biotechnology. Although they were wearing civilian clothes, the weapons in their hands were American weapons. The 4 armed guards were all white, not Indian. This company is a bit abnormal. This was Charlotte's first instinct when he approached green algae biotechnology. Charlotte parked a second-hand Indian motorcycle in the green belt by the roadside. He then walked to the wall of green algae biotechnology. The wall of green algae biotechnology was at least 5 meters high and very smooth. The top of the wall was installed with anti-theft nets, and there was a camera every few meters. There are almost no blind spots. However, even if green algae biotechnology installed 10,000 cameras, it would still be useless. Master, all the cameras can't capture you. You can enter from any place except the gate. Super Xiaoqian's voice came from the multifunction watch. Charlotte suddenly started and sprinted towards the wall of green algae biotechnology. When he was 5 meters away from the wall, his body shot up like a cannonball with the help of his legs. He only touched the 3-meter height of the wall before he flipped and jumped over the wall that was at least 6 meters high with the anti-theft net in a somersault. Charlotte's feet landed on the ground. His body didn't even sway. Super Xiaoqian's voice came from the multifunction watch again. Master, I've drawn a safe route to the laboratory for you. You have 5 minutes to pass through it. A map appeared on the multifunction watch. It was the internal map of green algae biotechnology's multi-purpose building. Super Xiaoqian had already marked the route he needed to pass through with a red line. Charlotte tidied up his slightly crooked backpack and walked toward the security door. As soon as he approached the security door that required a password and fingerprint verification, the door automatically opened. Charlotte easily passed through the first checkpoint. Super Xiaoqian's assistant was sometimes a little naughty and noisy, but she was super capable. In some ways, her help was even more useful than the Zodiac Squad and the 4 female knights. After entering the building, there were surveillance cameras everywhere, but with Super Xiaoqian's appearance, they were useless. Because it was late at night, there were no staff in the building, only some patrolling security guards. However, in a route planned by Super Xiaoqian, there wasn't even a single security guard. 4.5 minutes later, Charlotte arrived at the laboratory located on the first floor of the basement. In the same situation, the door of the laboratory required a pass and a communication password, as well as a fingerprint verification and a pupil scan to pass through. However, such a troublesome procedure was automatically opened when Charlotte approached the door. Welcome to the laboratory of green algae biotechnology. Of course, this wasn't the laboratory's intelligent voice, but Super Xiaoqian's. Charlotte had a headache. Xiaoqian, can't you be quiet? Your voice may attract the security guards. Super Xiaoqian said, whether they come or not, I've already closed all the security doors leading to this place. You can sing here and do your experiment at the same time. Charlotte was speechless. After entering the laboratory, Charlotte immediately got into work mode. He took out the samples collected from the slums from his backpack, including blood, brain tissue, skin and muscles, and so on, and used the laboratory equipment to analyze them. It would be wrong to think that he was doing experiments alone. Super Xiaoqian was playing a very important role. Although she wasn't in the real world, she was in the network cable, acting as Charlotte's assistant in every instrument. Chapter 1206. Advanced Experimental Equipment, X-ray Vision, Microvision, and a Superbrain. If Charlotte wanted to be a biological scientist, then he would be a biological scientist and the best biological scientist in the world. 10 minutes passed, and Charlotte found a very special microorganism in the blood samples, skin tissues, and brain tissues. It was present in all the samples he collected, especially in the brain tissue samples. Moreover, it was orange. Charlotte made pictures of the biological characteristics of the orange microorganism and sent them to the computer. Then he said, "Xiaoqian, help me check the global virus database and see if there is one that matches it. It looks like a chrysanthemum, an orange chrysanthemum." Super Xiaoqian's voice came from a computer in a laboratory. "How long do you need?" Charlotte wanted to remind her to do something. "It's done." It was Super Xiaoqian's voice. Charlotte was speechless. Ever since humans began to study microorganisms, none of the microorganisms discovered matched its characteristics. This is a new type of viral microorganism. Charlotte was not surprised by this result. "I just retrieved the experimental information from all the experimental equipment. After my integration and calculation, it can divide and reproduce a generation every 10 seconds. This is 180 times the reproduction speed of E. coli, and it is the fastest known microorganism." Being able to reproduce a generation in 10 seconds shocked Charlotte. However, thinking back to the situation of the infected people observed during the day, it was normal for the hellhound virus to have such a speed. After all, those who were bitten would quickly turn back into their own kind. In fact, even the AIDS virus was not as scary as it. "Master, I just found something interesting in one of the computers in the company at home." Super Xiaoqian appeared on the multifunction watch. "Yes, that is the personal computer of the chairman of the company. It was in a dormant state before, so I didn't notice it. Now I have awakened it." "What did you find?" Charlotte was a little curious. "The Green Algae Biotechnology Company is also studying the hellhound virus, and they also found this virus. They did some experiments on the hellhound virus, including live experiments. The test subjects are on the second floor of the basement. Dogs, cats, tigers, wolves, many animals have been injected with the Cerberus virus. There are also humans. There are live experiments on humans. Yes, and there's more than one. There are men and women, children, teenagers, young adults, middle-aged, and old people of all ages. There was no information on them, so they should have been erased. However, based on their characteristics, they should be poor people of low castes. But that's not important. What's important is that the experimental information here has been sent to the CIA. CIA? Charlotte was stunned. Is this company controlled by the CIA? There is no direct evidence to prove that the CIA controls this company, but this company has the participation of American capital. The capital comes from a biological laboratory in the United States, and the owner of that laboratory is Lockheed Martin Corporation. It was supposed to be a simple intrusion, but he didn't expect it to involve the CIB and Lockheed Martin Corporation. Charlotte was surprised, but not too surprised. "Master, all the signs show that Lockheed Martin Corporation is using the hellhound virus to create biological weapons. Evil, heartless." Charlotte was furious. Did they ever think that this is a horrible virus that doesn't even have a vaccine? Once it breaks out all over the world, the entire human race will be extinct. "Master, you're so angry, even I don't dare. What do you want to say?" Charlotte controlled his emotions. "Say it, I'm fine. This company has applied for a tourist visa. A live specimen will board the plane at 8:00 this morning and fly to the capital of China," Super Xiaoqian said. Charlotte's expression changed. If a live specimen was sent to the capital of China and the hellhound virus broke out there, it would be a disaster for China and the Chinese people. His anger burned again, and he couldn't suppress it. Their plan is to freeze the brain tissue of an infected person and turn it into ice. Then, according to the characteristics of the virus incubation period and outbreak period, after the plane enters China's airspace, the live specimen will swallow the ice. After the plane lands, the live specimen carrying the virus will enter the capital of China and bring the hellhound virus to the capital of China. Charlotte looked at his watch. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and there are 5 hours left. Do you know who will carry out this mission? It's impossible to know. It's usually someone who is sent to carry out the mission by verbal order. But I know that the person who is ready to make the sacrifice is right below us. It's a Mexican. When he heard Mexican, Charlotte naturally thought of the FA organization. Of course, the CIB wouldn't dare to show up for such an operation, because if China found out, it would be a full-scale war. There would be no winner in the war between China and the UA, and it would be the European Union and Russia who would benefit. If the UA lost its hegemony, Russia and the European Union would replace it. The UA was certainly unwilling to take such a risk, but also didn't want to miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to destroy China. Mexico, Nigeria, and India all had outbreaks of the hellhound virus. Wasn't it normal for China to be the fourth? Therefore, the FA organization, the newly raised lackey of the UA, took on the role of carrying out this mission. The FA organization never lacked drug addicts who were willing to sacrifice themselves for the FA organization at any time. Wait, did you find anything? Oh my God! Super Xiaoqian's voice trembled. There is a hidden plan in this plan called death. I just found out that an Indian military figure not only applied for a visa to China, but also applied for a permit to visit Rema Group. The Indian officials gave him the identity of a lieutenant general, but his identity information was forged. The guy was a special forces soldier and had cancer. According to the hospital's pathology report and the doctor's diagnosis, he only had 2 months left to live. Although it was not mentioned that he was also a living person carrying the virus, I concluded that he was also a human bomb. This was the United States and India's death plan. They attacked the capital of China with the hellhound virus and destroyed the political and economic center of China. They attacked Rema Group with the hellhound virus and destroyed the heart of China's military industry. This plan was vicious to the extreme. Where is the Indian? He is also here, on the second floor underground, Super Xiaoqian said. Erase all traces of us here. I want to go down and have a look, Charlotte said. It's been erased, Super Xiaoqian said. Charlotte had adapted to her speed, and he also packed up the samples and disposed of them. As soon as he finished, Super Xiaoqian told him that the new safe passage had been planned. Charlotte left the laboratory and entered the second floor underground through the safe passage planned by Super Xiaoqian. The elevator door opened, and in front of him was a closed corridor. There were surveillance cameras in the 4 corners and the middle of the corridor, as well as laser devices. Once the alarm was triggered, the laser device would activate and kill the trespasser. This kind of protection was not inferior to the CIB headquarters. However, all of this was nothing to Super Xiaoqian. Now, such a passage that could be described as terrifying was passed by Charlotte with a wave of his hand. The cameras, sensor alarm devices, and mechanical devices were all useless. The safety door at the end of the passage opened automatically. This time, Super Xiaoqian didn't say welcome. The world behind the safety door seemed to have touched her nerve, and she couldn't be naughty. There were large iron cages with animals and people locked inside. Behind the iron cages were many glass containers filled with liquids and organs. The entire space was filled with a disinfectant smell. Some of the people in the cages were infected with the hellhound virus, and some were not. However, they seemed to be controlled by drugs. When Charlotte came in, they didn't react at all. Some were sleeping, and some looked at Charlotte with empty eyes. Those infected with the hellhound virus roared at Charlotte. They were very manic and aggressive. There was also a safety door at the end of the passage. Those 2 people are behind that door, Super Xiaoqian told Charlotte, and then let the safety door open automatically. Charlotte quickly walked over and entered the safety door. Inside was a specially decorated space, in the style of an Indian palace, and it looked particularly luxurious. Charlotte glanced around and quickly found his target. In a room on the right, a Mexican was sleeping with 2 Indian women in his arms. All 3 of them were naked. There was a high-end red wine on the bed, as well as leftover lobster and drugs that hadn't been taken clean. In the room on the left was an Indian and next to him were two young and beautiful Indian women. In this room, there was also wine, food, and drugs. First, they would enjoy themselves, then they would die. This was the fate of these two people. Charlotte pushed open the door on the right, and at that moment, he awakened the mysterious energy in his body and released the energy field. The three people lying on the bed didn't even have time to react before their brains were controlled. The energy field invaded the Mexican's brain and captured his thoughts. Next, Charlotte began to dig out the memories in his brain. Charlotte's brain displayed those memories at the same time. The Mexican was still a child. He was thin and timid and was often bullied. He left school and became a drug dealer's underling. He killed for the first time and played with women for the first time. A human face suddenly appeared in his mind, and Xia Lei's thoughts instantly locked onto that memory. It was Yin Fo's face. This Mexican had met Yin Fo and had a conversation with him. You just need to take that plane to the capital of China and hand it over to our people. I will personally send you on the plane. This is the organization's reward for your hard work. This is an easy mission, Yin Fo said to the Mexican. What is it? You don't need to ask. Whatever you want during this time, money, women, and drugs, I will satisfy you. I have no problem. Yin Fo and the Mexican hugged. Xia Lei's thoughts returned to reality, and a cold smile quietly appeared at the corner of his mouth. It turns out that Yin Fo is the one carrying out this mission for the CIB. He will come to pick up these two people and bring them on board. Well, I will wait for you here. It is time to settle the accounts between us. The Mexican didn't respond at all, and the two Indian women lying next to him also fell into a deep sleep. Charlotte said softly, Xiaoqian, alert me when someone comes in. Okay. Super Xiaoqian turned her back to the bed, not wanting to see the messy scene on the bed. Chapter 12:07. The night was dark. Several Chevrolet Suburban off-road vans arrived at the Green Algae Biotechnology Company. The guard at the gate stopped them, checked their permits, and let them pass. A Chevrolet Suburban off-road van stopped in front of the complex. The door opened, and Yin Fo and Augustman got out of the car. Several elite agents from the FA organization cleared the way and escorted Yin Fo and Augustman into the multi-purpose building. Yin Fo and Augustman went straight to the underground entrance. All the surveillance cameras along the way were working and captured images of them passing through. One of the cameras was slightly adjusted to give a close-up of Yin Fo's face. After entering the elevator, Yin Fo said, "The plane to China is ready. From the crew to the passengers, they are all our people." Augustman nodded. "I guess we'll see the explosive news tomorrow night." Then he smiled. The Hellhound virus broke out in Rema Group, and the workers and technicians turned into mad dogs. At the same time, the Hellhound virus broke out in the capital, and the people living there fled, bringing the virus to the whole of China. Yin Fo said, "It won't be long before all countries close their channels to China. No one will be able to escape, and everything China has built for decades will be destroyed." Augustman sneered. "I really didn't expect to have such an opportunity. Charlotte probably never dreamed that he would be defeated by a virus, right?" Yin Fo said, "I don't think he will die, but it will be worse than death. I think he will understand one thing, and that is a saying in China. It is easy to dodge a spear in the open, but difficult to guard against a stab in the dark. He is strong, but he can't defeat everything. Now is the time for him to pay his debts." The elevator stopped, and the digital keypad flipped, revealing a complex electronic device. Yin Fo placed his palm on the screen for scanning, and at the same time, he put his eyes on a scanner for pupil scanning. After the security system verified his retina and fingerprint, Yin Fo entered the password on the virtual keyboard. After that, the elevator door opened. Several elite agents of the FA organization surrounded Yin Fo and Augustman through the enclosed corridor and entered the living experiment area. A woman infected with the Hellhound virus suddenly lunged at Yin Fo, who was about to pass through the middle aisle. However, she had clearly forgotten that she was locked in an iron cage. Her body slammed heavily against the iron cage, producing a dull thud. Roar! The woman roared at Yin Fo, orange saliva dripping from the corner of her mouth. There was not a single piece of cloth on her body, and her skin was covered with orange scars that looked like scales. Her breasts were no exception. They looked extremely hideous. Augustman stopped and looked at the infected person in the cage with interest. Where did her skin go? Yin Fo said, "This woman has actually been infected with the hellhound virus for 40 days. She was transported from Nigeria." A black person from Nigeria? Yes, she's a black woman. She was only 20 years old when she was infected with the hellhound virus. Our people spent a lot of effort to catch her. She ate her son and daughter. Oh my God. Augustman was surprised. I didn't even notice that she was black. The hellhound virus is really powerful. Yin Fo said, "No matter what race they are, they will become like this after being infected with the hellhound virus for 30 days. The hellhound virus will change the genes of the infected and turn them into beasts that can only eat their consciousness." I can't imagine what would happen if the hellhound virus broke out all over the world. Augustman's expression became solemn. Using the hellhound virus to attack the most populous country in the world, the whole world would also bear the risk of the virus spreading. The border blockade was only a theoretical isolation. It was impossible to achieve 100% success. You don't have to worry about this. Lockheed Martin Corporation is already working on a vaccine. Kirsten is a very magical person. He said that there is no need to worry about this virus breaking out in the United States. Yin Fo said. Augustman shrugged. So what if it breaks out? I just feel like I'm destroying the world. This feeling is really King amazing. Ha! Yin Fo also laughed. Without stopping, he led Augustman to the security door at the end of the aisle. He checked his fingerprint and retina again, entered the password, and then opened the security door. Do those two people know what they are going to do? Augustman asked. Of course not. Don't worry, I have arranged everything. Yin Fo patted the black lockbox in his hand and then walked in. Augustman said, "You guys stay outside and wait." Several elite agents of the FA organization nodded in unison and watched Augustman enter the security door. The security door closed, and no sound could be heard from inside. Yin Fo came to the door of the Mexican's room, reached out to grab the door handle, and then pushed the door open. The moment the door opened, both Yin Fo and Augustman froze, and the expressions on their faces were also extremely shocked. In addition to the Mexican, there was a bald monk in the room. He looked very young, and he was an Indian. But it wasn't the monk that they were looking for, but the pistol with a silencer in the monk's hand. Yin Fo recognized the gun. It was the Viper pistol of Rema Group, the best pistol in the world. But he couldn't understand why an Indian monk would appear in such a place. How did he crack the security system? Who else in the world had this kind of ability? The familiar figure, the impressive eyes. Suddenly Yin Fo and Augustman thought of one person, Charlotte. There is only one person in the world who had the ability to sneak in here without being noticed, and that was Charlotte. The person with the best makeup skills in the world was also Charlotte. He had appeared all over the world with a stranger's face more than once, fooling the CIB, FA organization, and Japan's Secret Service. You? Augustman's voice was tense and cold. Charlotte? The young Indian monk nodded, acquiescing. Augustman suddenly slapped the lockbox in Yin Fo's hand. The lockbox flew out of Yin Fo's hand and hit the muzzle of the Viper pistol in Charlotte's hand. Charlotte moved his feet, took a step sideways, and avoided the impact of the lockbox with his gun. At this moment, Yin Fo fell to the side, and his right hand touched his waist and grabbed a pistol in his hand. Augustman was faster, more determined, and more courageous. He took advantage of the lockbox flying towards Charlotte, leaped, and punched Charlotte's right wrist that was holding the gun. Puff! A bullet was ejected from the muzzle of the Viper pistol. Yin Fo's right wrist suddenly burst into a cloud of blood, and the pistol he had just grabbed in his hand fell to the ground. Bang! Augustman's iron fist hit Charlotte's right wrist, and the Viper pistol flew out. Charlotte waved his left hand and punched Augustman's right rib. There was a muffled sound, and before Augustman's body landed on the ground, he flew out and hit the wall before falling. If it was before, Charlotte would not be able to defeat both Augustman and Yin Fo at the same time. But now, after his body had entered a comprehensive evolution, his comprehensive strength had increased several times or even 10 times. Only Zhu Xianyue and the Black-Robed Man could fight him. Yin Fo and Augustman were no match for him at all. Could the lightweight boxing champion beat Tyson? Obviously not. Yin Fo reached out to grab the pistol, but before he could grab the pistol that had fallen to the ground, Charlotte's figure flashed and appeared in front of him. He kicked out and hit Augustman's lower abdomen. His body also flew off the ground and hit the wall hard. Then, he fell against the wall. Puff! Yin Fo opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. To make matters worse, he began to feel dizzy and could not control his body. Augustman roared and rolled on the ground, sweeping his leg toward Charlotte's legs. Charlotte lightly jumped and dodged it. His movement was agile, and his body was as light as a feather. Augustman's body rolled on the ground and grabbed the Viper pistol that he had just knocked out of Charlotte's hand. Attacking Charlotte's lower body was just a cover. The Viper pistol was Augustman's real goal. As the chief instructor of the FA organization, he was very experienced in actual combat. Clatter! Augustman raised his gun and locked the muzzle on Charlotte. Charlotte raised his hands. Don't be impulsive. I surrender. Ha ha! Augustman laughed loudly. Are you really Charlotte? Charlotte lowered his hand and rubbed his face a few times. Then, he carefully removed the human skin mask that covered his face. This human skin mask included the monk's head cover. When a mask left his head, his black hair was exposed. With his black hair and eyes that were as bright and deep as the stars, he still looked as handsome as ever. It's really you. It's really you. Augustman was very emotional. I didn't expect you to fall into my hands like this. Charlotte, is this all you've got? You disappoint me so much. I'm also very disappointed. A woman's voice suddenly came from Charlotte's wristwatch. Augustman was stunned. Who is it? Charlotte apologized. I'm sorry, I don't know how to explain it to you. It's just a little kid. Don't mind him. Humph. My butt is very big, okay. Do you believe that I could do plastic surgery on my butt right now and turn it into a Kardashian's butt? Who is she? Augustman was inexplicably nervous. Tell me, or I'll shoot. Charlotte put down his right wrist and pointed the multifunction wristwatch at Augustman. Augustman subconsciously dodged, but there was no hidden weapon at all. There was a woman on the screen of the wristwatch, a very beautiful and sexy woman. Just as she said, but was not small at all, and it was a very plump and perky type. Yin Fo climbed up from the ground. He covered his painful lower abdomen and said angrily, "Kill him. What are you waiting for?" Augustman did not shoot immediately. Everyone had this kind of mentality. After torturing you for a few years, the opponent that you have been scheming to kill suddenly fell into your hands one day. Would you shoot him in the head? No. You would torture him until you had vented enough, and then you would consider killing him. Augustman was now in such a state of mind. His brain had already begun to think about torturing Charlotte and what benefits he could gain from Charlotte. After all, the kid in front of him was the richest man in China. Calm down. Augustman said, it's easy to kill him, but that would be too easy for him. We have some questions that we need to find answers from him. Without waiting for Yin Fo to speak, Super Xiaoqian Cha-Cha said, Master, you really disappoint me. Are you going to be taken down by this old man, just like that? You're my idol. We have to respect the elderly, Charlotte said seriously. Bastard. Augustman was provoked. He suddenly lowered the muzzle and pulled the trigger at Charlotte's thigh. Chapter 1208. Ka! The Viper pistol made a sound, but no bullets were fired. Augustman pulled the trigger again. Ka! The Viper pistol made a louder sound, but still no bullets were fired. Charlotte put down his hand and said calmly, There's only one bullet in the gun. If you want to kill me with a gun, you'd better change to another gun. Augustman suddenly threw the Viper pistol at Charlotte. At the same time, he pounced on Yin Fo's pistol that had fallen to the ground. Creating a diversion was something he was good at. The Viper pistol flew through the air at an extremely fast speed. If one were to be hit in the head, one would definitely end up with a bloody head. However, for Charlotte, this speed was nothing. In his eyes, it was surprisingly slow. Charlotte reached out and grabbed the Viper pistol. With a pinch of his thumb, the empty clip slid out and a fully loaded clip was inserted into the Viper pistol. The entire process was extremely fast, and it was too much for the eyes to take in. It wasn't until he reloaded the clip that Augustman grabbed the pistol that had fallen to the ground. Pooh! A bullet shot out from a muzzle of the Viper pistol and instantly pierced into Augustman's buttocks. A flower of blood bloomed, and it was shaped like a golden chrysanthemum. Spoiler alert. Even Augustman couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. He used the momentum to roll on the ground. At the same time, he moved his wrist and pointed the muzzle at Charlotte. Pooh! Another bullet pierced into Augustman's wrist, and the pistol that he had just grabbed fell to the ground. Competing with Charlotte in marksmanship, even Zhu Xianyue didn't have such courage, let alone Augustman. Augustman was shot twice, but neither of them were fatal. His left hand was only 1 meter away from the pistol. He could reach it with his hand. He really wanted to do that, but his hand trembled and he retracted it, because he knew very well that although he was fast, he was not faster than a bullet, and he was even faster than Charlotte's reaction. He knew that as long as he stretched out his hand, the third bullet would be inserted into a certain part of his body. If he was lucky, it would be his arm. If he was unlucky, it would be his head. Yin Fo was also stunned. He stared at Charlotte, and from the corner of his eye, he also glanced at the pistol. His brain was also working quickly to find a way to resolve the crisis. Okay, game time is over. Throw me the gun, Charlotte said. Augustman hesitated for a moment, but still reached out and grabbed the pistol. Yin Fo suddenly fled towards the door. He was gambling on his luck. Charlotte only had one pistol, so he could only shoot one target. The one with the gun was Augustman, and he would definitely pose a greater threat to Charlotte than him. Therefore, in the next round, when he asked Augustman to throw the pistol over, he concluded that Charlotte would not shoot him, but Augustman. This was the perfect opportunity to escape. Yin Fo turned around and fled, and Augustman also got the opportunity. He suddenly raised the muzzle and pointed it at Charlotte's chest. Puff! A bullet shot out from the Viper pistol and blew up Augustman's left wrist. The gun fell to the ground again, and the gun was covered with Augustman's blood. Augustman looked at Charlotte with a strange look. He did not speak, but his eyes seemed to be saying, "Why do you always shoot me?" "Throw the gun over," Charlotte said. Augustman pushed the blood-stained pistol towards Charlotte with his bloody palm. Yin Fo is already out. You can't escape from here. He's out? Charlotte slapped his forehead with the Viper pistol. Damn, I actually forgot about him. Augustman leaned his head back and leaned out of the door frame. Then he saw Yin Fo standing in front of the security door, continuously entering the password and scanning his fingerprint. He was bleeding and sweating. What was going on? Super Xiaoqian's voice came from Charlotte's watch again. It's useless. That fool can't get out. Who is she? Augustman was inexplicably nervous. I'm your aunt, Super Xiaoqian said. Augustman's eyes were murderous, but he could not see the woman at all. Charlotte walked towards Augustman. Game time is over. Augustman subconsciously moved backwards, but Charlotte did not move him at all. Instead, he walked past him and looked at Yin Fo. Come here, Charlotte said. Yin Fo's head shook a little. Then he turned around and walked over. His eyes were empty, as if he had lost his soul. Augustman's heart was filled with anxiety and fear. What did you do to him? Xiaolei did not respond to him. Yin Fo came to Charlotte's side and stood there quietly, like a block of wood. Augustman's eyes also became empty. Memories from Yin Fo and Augustman appeared in Charlotte's mind. The memories of the two people appeared in his mind at the same time, like two trains running side by side, and did not affect each other at all. Yin Fo's life appeared in Charlotte's mind. When he was a child, he immigrated to the United States with his parents, and his parents were robbed and shot by black people. He lived on the streets, and then he was taken in by a killer. That killer was a killer from the FA organization, and perhaps he became a member of the FA organization. He was smart, cunning, and ruthless. He started from the bottom and became the military advisor of the FA organization. His life could be made into an inspirational drama. In Augustman's memory, he learned Eastern martial art from an Asian martial arts master, Muay Thai, Judo, Japanese swordsmanship, and Chinese Kung Fu. And that martial arts master was the former instructor of the FA organization. He worked very hard, stood out among the many disciples of the martial arts master, and finally became the successor of the martial arts master. One stormy night, he sneaked into the old martial arts master's room, stabbed the martial arts master to death with a knife, and then became the instructor of the FA organization. The main purpose of Charlotte stealing the memories of the two people was to understand the FA organization and find out who the leader of the FA organization was. In Yin Fo and Augustman's memory, the size of the FA organization had been greatly reduced by his proxy war, and it was less than half of its heyday. The FA organization's headquarters was bombed by him once, and the newly built headquarters was also attacked by the war proxies and was forced to give up. Now, the FA organization had no headquarters, and all the core members were scattered, and Yin Fo and Augustman commanded their actions remotely. The ones left in the Mexican headquarters were just some cheap cannon fodder. More and more killers and members of armed groups entered Mexico to become war proxies, killing people to earn bonuses. Some people even exchanged the heads of drug dealers for bonuses, so the amount of bonuses plummeted. However, in the memories of Yin Fo and Augustman, the first thing Charlotte knew was the identity of the leader of the FA organization. In the memories of Yin Fo and Augustman, the two received instructions in the most primitive way, letters. When the leader of the FA organization needed Yin Fo and Augustman to do something, he would usually send letters to them. Sometimes the person who delivered the letters was a child, sometimes it was a peddler, but it was never the same person. In the memories of Yin Fo and Augustman, some of the contents of the letters were preserved. There were instructions to send Omosa to Japan to carry out a mission, instructions to Tavong Snow Mountain, instructions to cooperate with the CIB, and this time, instructions to send soldiers to destroy the Rema group with the Hellhound virus. No one was seen, but he commanded all the important operations. Who was the leader of the FA organization? There was no answer. Charlotte released the control over the brains of Yin Fo and Augustman. A few seconds later, Augustman returned to normal, and his eyes were full of fear and suspicion. What did you just do to me? Yin Fo also returned to normal. His first reaction was to escape, but he gave up in the blink of an eye because he remembered what happened just now. Charlotte told him to run, but he couldn't open the door. He looked at Charlotte nervously, and his heart was full of fear. He didn't know what Charlotte would do to him next, but he was sure that it would definitely not be anything good. He also wanted to know what Charlotte had just done to him, but he didn't dare to ask. It would be useless to ask. Charlotte didn't answer any of their questions at all. He waved the Viper pistol in his hand. I just want to make one thing clear. If you give me the answer, I will let you go, and the other person will die. Augustman and Yin Fo couldn't help but look at each other. Augustman suddenly said angrily, "Damn it. If you want to kill me, then puff." With a gunshot, a bloody bullet hole appeared on Augustman's shoulder. "You better not interrupt when I speak. I ask you and you answer. Do you remember?" Charlotte said. Augustman gritted his teeth and tried hard not to scream. This was the fourth time Charlotte had shot him. He really didn't understand why Charlotte didn't like him. Yin Fo only took one shot, but he took 4. This is a race to answer question. Listen carefully. The rules are very simple. As long as one person answers my question, he can leave alive, and the other person will be killed. Charlotte repeated the rules. Augustman and Yin Fo suddenly became nervous, and their breathing became short. Whether it was Augustman or Yin Fo, both of their hands were stained with blood. Countless people had died in their hands, but killing others and being killed by others were absolutely two different feelings. In the face of death, no one could be a truly fearless warrior. Who is the leader of the FA organization? Charlotte said. Augustman and Yin Fo looked at each other and didn't say anything. The two still had a tacit understanding. If they didn't say anything, then his rules couldn't be enforced. Xia Lei's lips curled into a sneer, and he suddenly pulled the trigger. Puff! Puff! Augustman and Yin Fo were shot in the thighs at the same time, and Yin Fo also fell to the ground. Who is the leader of the FA organization? Charlotte asked again. His rule was actually that there were no rules. Augustman's expression was ferocious, but his heart was collapsing because this was the fifth shot by Charlotte, and he didn't know the answer at all. It's Yin Fo suddenly said. Your father, Xia Changhe. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.